14th.
That makes sense. Alright, we're live. Oh yeah, they definitely did. It also actually says center now and not just interior offensive line anymore.
Hufanga, so. Did it used to not say center? Did it just say...
It just said interior offensive
interior?
line, I'm pretty sure. No, you know what? No, it did. But no team had center listed as a need, I don't think. I think it just said guard.
It's possible. Oh, yeah. I don't remember. Alright, man. We, just to clarify, we are doing some trade action if we see something, right?
We are doing trades. And frankly, I have no idea how to... We've tried for years to figure out how we want to do trades, but maybe we
I just think... So, like, okay. This is how, how I feel, but I don't really care. But, like, I think whoever's control... Like, if you're on the clock with somebody and one of my teams that I'm controlling, I'll kind of look ahead at what teams I have. But if I'm like, all right, if I'm this team, I'm going to try to move up. And then we go from there. But if you control both teams, then just, obviously you make the trade yourself. But,
right. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's kind of how I see it. So then we can kind of, since these are the teams that we're controlling, we kind of make the decisions for those teams.
Mm-hmm.
So,
do you remember? Did you give him Cam Ward last week?
I did.
It
seems... It's not chalk, obviously, because they still need edge, but apparently they're keeping Draymond Jones edge, possibly. So, and I know that they like, and this doesn't stop you from taking Carter at all. I'm not saying it does, but they like Arden Key, I guess, enough.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, it obviously, if they like Cam Ward, it doesn't matter how much they need edge, because I think at pick 35, you go down and look at the edges, and we've talked about this before, and we've seen the edges they're going to be there. I mean, it's not Abdul Carter, but Thornton, Landon Jackson, Braden Swinson, JT. I mean, both Ohio State edges. Maybe someone like Izaraku or Michael falls. Shamar Stewart, I don't think will.
James Pierce could be there.
Pierce, Kyle Kennard, I like. Josiah Stewart, I like. I mean, like, then those guys are possibly third-round guys, too. So, I mean, they could even... Pretty sure they have a third, too.
Yeah,
that's one of the picks they traded. But yeah, I mean...
It's been so long since we've done trades, and we've done... This is now the fourth one.
You own the team that would probably come up. I don't think anybody I own is going to pay up that much. I mean, I think you own all the teams that would possibly do it. The Raiders, I just don't think are, because they got Geno. I think they just paid him, so they're not moving up to one.
What do you think the cost is for the Giants to move up?
Honestly, so if the Titans want Cam Ward, and they're saying that they want Cam Ward, I think it's going to go up a little bit from what it... Because before they were saying the Giants could do it without giving up a future first, which could still be possible, but if that's the case, they're going to have to give 3, 34, and maybe even 65 if they're not going to give up a future first, personally. I think at least that much, because you're still going to get... I mean, you've seen teams in the past move from, like, 5 to 1, or, like, from, like, 9 to 5, and it costs future first and, like, a second if they're going up to get, like, a quarterback. So, if the Giants want him enough, they'll pay. And I know we've talked about, not forcing things, because you go to the owners and say, hey, like, I don't want to force a quarterback here if you're the Giants, because we don't love one of these guys. But if you do, if he doesn't pan out, you're not having your job next year anyway. So send that future first. I mean, like, whatever. Like,
no, 100%.
If you think he's the guy, so I think if they're going to send a future first, I think the drop down from 1 to 3 would probably be 3 a future first and probably another pick.
You think it would be 34?
I was going to say maybe 34, but if that's the case, I think the Titans probably send like 120 back or something like that, maybe. just so they still have another pick. Maybe that's not right, but
that feels right.
Maybe not. Maybe, and if it's not 120, maybe it's like 167 or like next year's 4 or 5 or whatever, but 6. But I think something like that.
I think I'm going to lock it in with 120. I think that makes sense in my mind.
And since we're doing a 2-round mock, it'd be kind of fun to give Titans an extra second here just to kind of see how that would pan out for them. So, yeah, I think I like that. So 334
and next year's one for 1 and 120. Yep.
Make sure if I get it on mine.
And obviously the Giants aren't making that trade if they're not coming up for a quarterback. They're choosing, and that quarterback's going to be Cam Ward. You can make an argument that there's between Shedeur and Jackson Dart, which one is your QB2? I don't know. In my mind, neither of those guys can usurp Cam Ward off that one spot.
Probably not, no. I think, and this is just me, I'm a little higher on Shedeur. I think Shedeur would be the only one that could, but I don't think he will at this point.
Shedeur probably has the higher floor coming in if you want a day one starter. Which obviously they would, but
it's also just kind of one of those things that, like, Dart had some hype during the season a little bit, but you didn't really hear about, like, okay, he's going to be a first-round quarterback until after. And it's not like he played any more games to, like, change people's minds.
Senior Bowl, baby.
Yeah, it's just one of those things, like, how can your... Sure, like, you can go back and watch the tape again, which I think is probably what does happen, and you get, like a second opinion. But I also just think a lot of it is just from what these analysts are hearing from teams, which could be true and it could not be true.
Yeah, so, I think that's a fair point. Also, that was definitely a Bengal tweet that you just recited back, so I appreciate that.
Did I?
Yeah.
If I did, I don't remember.
Bengal definitely tweeted the other day something about, it's interesting to me that Jackson Dart is shooting up draft boards. Maybe it wasn't him, but I think it was.
I wonder if I read that or not.
He said he's shooting up draft boards despite the fact that he hasn't played any games. Like, nobody talked about him as a first-round pick after he played whatever games. I think part of it, too, is just Ole Miss kind of flew under the radar this past season to an extent. And, like, they didn't have the levels. Just not that, obviously, Colorado did, but the spotlight was on Colorado because of prime time and everything going on there.
I think Ole Miss's offensive scheme just scares me a little bit. I like Jackson Dart.
I get that for sure.
It's so, like, scheming guys open dependent, and I think Dart showed that he can do things without that. Like when plays break down, I think that was important, and that's the thing that I liked. That kind of made me like it a little more. But it's not. Even with how the NFL's kind of changed to this more wide open, timing based RPO type of like, there's a ton of these offenses out now that do that. The way that Lane likes to run it, it's very simplified. It's so simplified that you can't run it that simple in the NFL, or it just won't work because the defense will know what you're doing all the time, pretty much. So, not saying he can't. Obviously, I mean, there's been quarterbacks that have run those types of offenses who have been fine. I mean, you could make the case that Patrick Mahomes was in that type of offense. Kind of. It was a little bit more air raidy, but still.
Right.
But just wanted to throw that out there about good old Jackson.
Yeah, but Giants need a quarterback. Even if they get Russ, they need a quarterback because Russ isn't a quarterback anymore. He's a hobbit. So.
It's true.
If they get Cam Ward and Russ, I don't know that Cam Ward does start for him. They might still stick with Russ to start, but it buys them a little bit of time. I don't know. I can't see a world that they have Russell Wilson start all 17 games next year if Dable expects to keep his job.
I think if they go get Cam Ward, I think it's more likely they get Flacco.
I do too.
Personally. Not saying that they can't get Russ, but it would be like one of those things where maybe Russ goes to the Browns. If the Giants are like, hey, we're going to trade up to take a quarterback, Russ will probably say no.
Well, this could also be a scenario that we're playing out where Russ decides to sign with the Browns in the next couple of weeks here before the draft. and the Giants go from having a potential stopgap Band-Aid option to we have nothing, and we need to do something. So maybe that does entice them to throw in that future first that they might not have had to otherwise to make that move. And maybe the Titans do like Cam Ward enough that they would still rebuff that and say, nah, we're just going to take our guy. But, you know, picking up the Giants first next year, I got to be honest with you,
Pretty
even
nice.
with Cam Ward, do the Giants look good enough in 2026 or 2025
Probably
to not be picking in the top?
Pick. Top 15, I was
if the Titans trade back to 3, whoever they take there, do they look good enough to not have a top 10 pick next year? Probably not. So you're stockpiling now potentially 2 top 10 picks, probably 2 top 15 picks, maybe even 2 top 5 picks. And
in a loaded class.
In a loaded class that you can either take 2 shots or you can do what the Texans did, where you wind up moving up for both of your guys and you say, again, equivalent next year because the class is going to be different. And there's been plenty of times that we've mocked, or people have been mocking guys very high a year out, and then something completely shifts. Ollie Gordon was supposed to be a first-round pick 2 years ago, and now he's like 5th. Ooh. So I'm just going to use this year's draft class as an analogy. But, like, if the Titans had picks 1 or potentially picks 3 and 5 next year, they could make a serious move up, snag Cam Ward, and try to grab Abdul Carter as well.
Snag Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter.
Or do that, or grab something else. You know, Mason Graham would be tremendous there.
Yeah.
You probably don't make that move to take Genty. You probably don't make that move to take Tetairoa McMillan.
Probably not, but the Titans love their running backs. So, you know.
They do, but Callahan likes his running backs a little bit less.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll stop rambling. We're on to the Browns.
No, you're good. I already knew who I was picking here, but it's funny. Schefter just tweeted that there's a growing belief that Cleveland wants Cam. They want Cam Ward, but may need to trade for 1 to get it. I want to do this because it's going to pay off for the Titans, and I think I'm just going to do it anyways, regardless of the Titans. But I think I'm going to give the Browns Shedeur here. I think that I don't care that they have Kenny Pickett. I don't know. Like, I guess we could sit here and say maybe they're getting Russ, and then they have Russ Pickett, and then are they also gonna take Shedeur? Makes it feel a little less likely to me, but they also don't have Russ yet. I think that they feel like they're not going to be picking this high anymore. I just think that's how they feel. I think that, and granted, they have good players on their team. It's not like their team is awful. They probably aren't the second worst team, but in the NFL.
Well,
I think they're probably the worst franchise in the NFL, or at least top or bottom 3. But I don't know that they're the roster talent-wise. I think they're more talented than the Patriots overall. I think they're probably more talented than the Raiders. I think they're more talented than. I think you can make an argument they're more talented than the Jets and the Panthers and the Saints and maybe even the Bears as like totality.
What was that one tweet from a couple weeks ago? I'm sure you saw it, but it was something like the Browns roster is now constructed like my Pokemon team when I was growing up, with 1 level 100 starter and a whole bunch of level 5 Rattata or something like that.
Yeah. Look, they have a lot of good defensive pieces still, in my opinion. Their offensive line needs work. I think the receivers are good enough. They could use another one. Running back obviously needs somebody else, but I think their defense has enough pieces in general that it gives them a little bit of a floor, but the fact doesn't change. Like, you're rolling out Jameis Winston last year, and, like, sure, he had some good games, but he also lost you some games. Like, that's
in the last 2 years, their best quarterback play came from Jameis Winston and Joe Flacco.
Yeah. And they also just didn't have their run game. When they have been good, they've had a good run game. And Chubb not being there, Ford has had some good games, but Chubb not being there has hurt them. I think they probably take a running back. I think they take one possibly the first pick of the second round. True. I think they need one pretty badly. And there's going to be a good one there. But anyways, we're not there yet. I'm going to do the crazy thing. I think a lot of people don't think they're going to. If he's there, I still think they need a quarterback bad enough that I'm going to do that and have the Titans have a little layup here. They get best non-quarterback available. So
yeah, I like it.
Trade off for them.
I like it. I think that both the quarterbacks are gone in the top 3 picks. Those two. I understand that Shedor's been slipping in a lot of people's situations recently. I think that's a bluff at this point. I think that's mostly smoke and mirrors. Obviously, we'll see what happens, but
I tend to agree with you.
I think Cam Ward is locked in at the first overall pick. Whether it's the Titans, whether it's the Browns, whether it's the Giants, I don't know. But I think that one of those teams is taking Cam Ward at 1. Frankly, if the Titans are on the clock and they are not going to take Cam Ward at 1 and they're picking between an offer between the Browns and the Giants, where it's a very similarly structured offer where it's 2 1s and a second-round pick, I think they would probably take the Giants pick. Take the Giants trade.
Probably.
Because of the fact that the Giants, like you said, have a worse roster than the Browns. So the chances that the Browns are picking here again next year is lower than the chances of the Giants picking here again next year.
Yeah, because if they get a Kirk Cousins or something, and maybe they get
even if they get a Russ, even if they get a whatever,
yeah,
no, Pickett doesn't move the needle for me at all. But
I think he's probably better than what you got from Jameis as an overall. But
he's better than what you got out of Deshaun Watson too.
Well, yeah, but you could say even Mason Rudolph's better than that, and that's saying something for me.
That's cheers to that. But I think there is a world where if the Titans are really gung-ho on a quarterback and they have Cam and Shedeur rated similarly, then we might see that logic flip, and they might say, okay, well, we're just going to trade back to 2 and kind of force the Giants' hand then again, because there's a world where they could trade back to 2 and then trade back to 3 and maybe pick up a little bit less. Maybe they do just get pick 35 and maybe they don't get that future first then, but picking up a 1 next year from the Browns and having the 3 top picks in the second round of this draft class would change some things for the Titans roster construction, honestly. Yeah. I think it would look a lot better.
They hit on those picks, yeah.
Granted, yes, like you said, they have to hit on those picks, and that's not a guarantee, but it definitely looks a lot better for a team that was going to have, 2 picks in the top 50 to having 4 in the top 35.
Yeah.
It's pretty nice. So.
Yeah, and then you could always use one of those picks and a later pick to move back up in the first somewhere if there's someone falling.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you the capital. Like maybe there's a wide receiver that's falling that you like, so they need that. Maybe there's just an edge guy.
Mm-hmm.
If for some reason you don't get Carter, if you took like Hunter or whatever.
Yep.
So yeah, just adds a lot of flexibility for sure.
Yeah, and I think too, the other thing that I wanted to talk about is a trade back scenario for the Browns potentially. If Cam Ward goes and they were dead set on Cam Ward being their guy and they're not as high on Shedeur, they could trade back to a team.
Somebody that wants Carter or somebody that wants Hunter, yeah.
Carter or Hunter, or a team that wants to trade up for Shedeur. Maybe the Jets do because they have Fields on a 2-year deal and Shedeur could use a couple years to, figure things out. I wouldn't hate that personally.
Yeah. Even the Raiders, I guess, could.
Yeah, they have Geno for a couple of years. You could honestly see a team like the Seahawks do it too. Now, that would be a bigger move, going from 18 up to 2.
Yeah.
But it's not impossible. I think it would take a pretty big haul for the Browns to want to do that. But Darnold's basically on a 1-year deal. I'm sure you saw that structure.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Nothing's really guaranteed after 1 year. So, anyway, the Titans picking at 3 here. I think for the purpose of this exercise, I'm just going to have them stick and pick because they already got draft capital back for this draft and next year's draft. And I think that they would just want to take a guy here. Honestly, in my mind, it's a coin flip between Carter and Hunter. I think Carter is probably the more dominant player on the field at any point in time. But Hunter can do... We talked about this last week. If Abdul Carter gives you 100% on defense and Travis Hunter gives you 70 on offense and defense, he's still going to outweigh Carter's overall what he provides for the team.
I think it's fair to say that Hunter probably is the best
player in the draft because of that, but needs do fall into place a little bit when you talk about guys that are like neck and neck like that.
Right.
Which the Titans could definitely use both for sure. I'm not saying that they couldn't use. It just also would depend on how they view, like, do they think that he could play both?
Right.
Like, are they comfortable with that?
Right.
Because if they're not, I mean, he's made it pretty dead set that he wants to try. So if that's not something they want to do, I still think it's possible that some teams are just like, no, I don't really want to, have that fight.
Right. Yeah, and if the Titans don't want that, or they don't want their top pick doing it, then that's a different story. It's also kind of an indictment on the Titans last offseason, where they made moves for wide receivers and they made moves for cornerbacks to be able to then turn around and say, okay, well, we're taking a guy who's going to be our cornerback and wide receiver with our first pick this year.
Yeah.
And it may just be something from a pride perspective that they're not able to stomach. Even if you say that Travis Hunter is your number 2 to L'Jarius Sneed and your number 2 wide receiver, is Ridley still on the roster?
Yeah, he is.
So even if you say that he's the number 2 to,
yeah, at least to start off he is,
whatever, then is that worth the pick? I don't know. It's a weird conundrum. But for the sake of this one, I'm going to take Carter. I've gone back and forth on it a couple times. Which one is the better pick for you? I don't know. And it really is going to come down to what team is comfortable using Hunter in both capacities, both roles. And if the Titans are willing to do that, I wouldn't think they would hesitate to pull the trigger at 3.
Yeah.
But Abdul Carter to me is just
I can see it for sure. I mean, it's Abdul's a great player, but we talked about this, I think, when you gave him Travis the last time that you did. I don't remember what week. I guess it was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
That the Titans just kind of need that star, that face of the franchise, and
they need a talking point too. They're just such an irrelevant,
correct,
figure right now.
Since they've lost like Derrick Henry, and they just Vrabel kind of kept them competitive. I mean, and they've always been under the radar a little bit just because of their market, like Nashville. It's just, for football, at least, it seems like a little bit smaller of a market, which living here feels crazy to me because it just feels like such a football state. But yeah, do you think there's a world? So I kind of feel like the top 4 is going to be these 3 and Hunter. I think more than likely, because you talked about Shedeur probably being top 3. I would be shocked if the top 4 is not some combination of these players. So if the Patriots stick, I think that's who they go with. And I think I've talked myself into it a little more in the fact that I think Vrabel might actually be a little bit more open to just like, if Hunter can prove that he can do both at a high level, I think he would probably let him, being a player's coach, being the guy who's played before.
And also played two-way before.
And, correct, I was about to say, and kind of doing a little bit of two-way stuff. So I think if they stay, it gives Drake May a weapon. Maybe he finds or has some creative ideas to use him as kind of a weapon on defense and not play 100% of the time. They have Christian Gonzalez. They signed Carlton Davis, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And
Marcus
then
Jones in the slot.
Jones in the slot. Like, you can find a way to still get him on the field on defense. But I think if they do draft him, I think they're probably going to ask him to probably play more wide receiver than corner, which is a little bit backwards from what I envisioned. I envisioned a more corner with using as an offensive weapon. But I do think Vrabel is creative enough of a defensive mind that he can find ways, like, maybe when you get inside like the 30, that's kind of when I've seen Travis Hunter make the most plays, is once you get into the red zone or like the 30 plus. When the field kind of shrinks a little bit, he takes the ball away more so in those situations when the offense has less room to work. So maybe start him off like that. I don't know, like, I guess it's just a Deion thing for me, and it's silly. And I don't know if the Cowboys would actually give up a bunch, but if someone's moving up for Hunter, I just keep looking at the Cowboys. And I'm not for sure going to do this. I was more so just going to ask if do you see that possibility? depending on the price. Like, if the Patriots are like, you know what, we think Hunter's the best player, but we feel like we have a lot of needs still, we could use some more picks. You know, we could drop down, get a wide receiver, and then if we grab the Cowboys' second-round pick, then we could take, maybe a running back because we need a running back. We could take some more offensive line because the left side of our offensive line is garbage. I don't know. I don't know how the Cowboys are hard to figure out because I feel like they think they're really good. So, like, it would cost a future first to move up to 12. Do they think they're good enough to give up their future one?
Right.
Feel comfortable about it? I wouldn't, but we're talking about Jerry Jones here.
Right.
And
Jerry
Travis
Jones,
Hunter is like that is the Jerry Jones player. Honestly.
Jerry Jones is always the smartest man in the room in his own mind.
Yeah. And I'm sure him and Dion have talked about Travis Hunter. And Dion's probably told him, like, give whatever you can to go get this kid.
Yeah.
I think if he drops 4, I think it's possible, depending on the price.
Right.
I don't know that they're going to give up everything, but like
I think
future one in 44.
Let me pull up the Cowboys depth chart real quick.
Don't know if that's enough. Yeah, I mean do they have too many needs? I mean, I wouldn't do this if I was the Cowboys.
No.
First, because I think they need more things. I think they need to use 44 to get a player. I don't think they should move it for Travis Hunter. But at the same time, like, if Travis Hunter ends up being this generational player, then at the end of the day, I don't think anybody's gonna judge them for doing this because I think they could still use a little bit of corner help, and they definitely could use another wide receiver next to CD. They haven't really had a guy.
Tolbert and Jonathan Mingo right now.
Yeah, so I wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility. I'm not saying.
The only reason why I don't see it happening, I'll put it this way. The only reason why I don't see it happening is because Travis Hunter isn't a former first-round pick. So he hasn't yet gotten to the point where he's completely washed. So Jerry might not want to trade for him.
This is true. Because
he hasn't spent 4 years being a bust, but still having been a first at some point in time.
Yeah.
So, there's a world where Jerry doesn't pull the trigger on it. I could see it happening, though, if I'm being honest. Does it cost just the one to move up? Does it cost more than that?
I think it would cost more.
Probably more. It would probably cost 76. And maybe they get 144 back.
I think it would cost 44.
Yeah?
Big. Yeah, because, I mean, it's 12-4, and, it's obviously not a quarterback, but, you've seen similar move-ups, like when the Niners moved up, I think with the Dolphins, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I think they gave up. They definitely gave up a 1 plus, like 2 1s plus, I think, but, I don't know. Maybe I don't do it this time. I just wanted to kind of talk through it. I do think it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get too trade crazy this early, so I'm gonna give the Patriots Travis Hunter. Kind of already discussed the reasons why, but I do wanted to discuss that on draft night. That's kind of one of this. I don't know if I want to say like a sleeper thing that could happen, because I'm sure other people have discussed that. I haven't heard a lot about it, but it makes sense in my head why they would do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so. I think it would make a ton of sense. Obviously, the Dion connection is alive and well. There were rumors that Dion was going to be in the running for head coach, which, if they move up for Travis Hunter, maybe he does come out and coach next year. Again, I feel like it would be weird for him to not coach his son and coach against his son, but that's also true. Well, neither here nor there.
If Shedeur went to the Giants, he definitely wouldn't.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But even if he went to the Browns, I'm saying that would still be weird if you had to line up across. I don't know. Maybe it would happen. Maybe it wouldn't. I don't know. He just seems like a guy that's too family focused. If he was going to the Cowboys, he would need the Cowboys to trade for Shedeur, I think, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. But that brings up the Jags here, and I don't want to spend too much time talking about it or overthinking it, because I know I've kicked around a whole bunch of ideas for them. Yeah. I think they stick and pick here, and I just don't see how they would pass up on Mason Graham.
He's a big need, and I think he's definitely talented enough to still go here. So
he is probably a top 5 player, and he is, in my opinion, probably the best fit at a big need for the Jaguars. Maybe not the biggest need.
I mean, and their GM's already talked about they haven't signed any defensive linemen because they want to keep spots open for rookies. So I mean,
right.
Like, and maybe you go at smoke and mirrors. Well, they still have spots to fill, so it's at least somewhat true.
Right. It could be as much smoke and mirrors as you want it to be, and maybe they're just thinking about the fact that there's depth at the DC position. But
take one in the second round, but I don't know, man. Get your first choice here.
Right.
So, yeah. Obviously, I like that. I'm not going to talk too much about this one either because we've talked about it before. I'm just going to give the Raiders Jinty because I think that's what they're going to want to do. I think it's best player available. I think Pete Carroll wants to run the crap out of the ball. They've addressed some of their other needs a little bit, and yeah, I mean, you can make a case for a few other players for sure, but I think this is going to be JT this week. We're not going to have him fall with the Broncos this time, sadly. Sadly.
The Jets are a weird one. I kind of want to get spicy.
It could be spicy. People are saying Jackson Dart.
That's what the spicy was going to be.
It's like I knew.
They could use some other things, but man, like, does getting Justin Fields in a 2-year deal really do it for you? I don't know.
I don't think so, and I think Dart needs to sit at least 1 year, maybe 2. Like, more than the other 2 quarterbacks, for sure. I would prefer if he sits 2, personally. Learn your system. Keep the same offensive coordinator the entire time. Let him sit and learn for at least 2 seasons. And maybe he plays a little bit the second season. But
I'm just trying to think, too. Aaron Glenn, who's their offensive coordinator?
Guy from the Lions who was like their passing game coordinator.
Engstrand, right?
Yeah, it's like
Tanner Engstrand.
Yeah, I think he worked with the Rams a little bit too, if I'm not mistaken. I could definitely be wrong.
Yeah, well, you know who feels like a very McVay, Jared Goffey kind of quarterback?
Yeah. I can see it, man. I mean, I'm not saying that happen.
When I kicked around the Jets trading up to draft Sanders,
yeah,
I started thinking about that a little bit more. Even though they added Justin Fields, it's not going to stop them.
There's been hype about it. That could be smoke and mirrors, but I mean, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, they were saying that they love Jackson Dart. There was like a ton of reports saying that they just loved him. So who knows? Could be true, could be not. But I think a lot of things line up to where the Jets have needed quarterback, and maybe they just love Jackson Dart.
They really haven't had a face at the position either for years. Nope. It was supposed to be Rodgers. It was supposed to be Wilson. It was supposed to be Sanchez. It was supposed to be whoever. Sam Darnold, and it just hasn't worked out. And I think part of that is just because they've rushed the process so much consistently.
Yep. I think they're going to finally slow it down. I think
they need to slow it down. And having Fields as a capable starter for the next couple of years allows you to do that, which is nice. Even if Fields comes in and they do go 3-14 this year, which is possible, you pick another guy at the top of the next class, and maybe you make the argument then that you should have waited to take the quarterback because whatever. I get it. I do. But
I think they have enough pieces on defense, because if you look, like, the solid Jets, for the most part, were a competitive team. Mm-hmm. They just got worse when they got rid of Saleh. And they didn't have a good quarterback play then. So if you get better quarterback play, Glenn is a good defensive coordinator. I think he's going to be a good head coach, if I had to guess. And the defense should at least be top 10-ish. And if you can run the ball with Brees, you have good running backs. Offensive line's better than it has been in the past few years.
I would still like it to be better, obviously.
Oh, for sure. But I mean, Olu looks good. Tittman looked good. Vera Tucker looked good. You just need 2 more pieces. John Simpson's good enough. I don't like your right tackle situation.
Well, they added Josh Myers too, who adds some flexibility. Yeah, he can basically play anywhere if they really needed him to.
I think you could add one more offensive lineman and feel really good, personally. But they've been at the point where they've needed like 3 or 4 offensive linemen.
100%.
I just think it's in a better spot.
I think if they don't address offensive line in free agency or the draft, they would probably start Chuks, and they would probably start Myers at left guard.
I think you're probably right.
I think
it would at least be a competition between him and
correct. Yes, you'd want to see how it plays out in training camp, but I think that those would be the 2 big offensive line battles I'd be looking for.
Yeah.
If this were to happen, this is a weird one, and this is kind of the start of this little cyclical thing here. The Jets are one of the first teams in that weird range where they could be a trade-up candidate, where they want to move up for the quarterback that they want. They could even honestly make a move up for somebody different. They could move up for...
they need Tyler Warren.
Well, they could take Tyler Warren here, too, frankly. And
they can move up for Mason Graham.
They can move up for Mason Graham. They can move up for Travis Hunter.
Yeah, they could.
They added Brandon Stevens, but that doesn't stop me from taking him. Obviously, they have Sauce, but having somebody opposite Sauce would be nice. They don't really have a wide receiver, too. Alan Lazard has been cooked since Nam.
He's going to be cut, I think, too. He's on the trade block still.
So they really don't have wide receiver, too. I mean, or they could be a candidate to trade back. There's enough needs that they have, I think, and they're not glaring needs as they have been for the past few years with the Jets, but there's enough things that they could snag a wide receiver in the middle of round 1 somewhere. They could snag a tight end somewhere in the 2nd or 3rd round. They could trade back, I'm saying, to call it 14, and the Colts decide that they want to move up for Tyler Warren, and the Jets pick 14, and maybe it wouldn't cost the Colts 2nd, pick 45. Maybe it would. I don't know. But just adding extra shots to take at those types of players, you can still grab them at pick 14. You're probably still picking between Tet McMillan, Egbuka, Golden, one of the big 4 wide receivers. And then with the 2nd round pick, you're probably losing out on Loveland. You already lost out on Warren, obviously, but there's enough tight ends there that are in that range of Arroyo, Taylor, Ferguson, that maybe you want to take that stab. But I think that they're a team that is probably going to be active on the phones. First time GM, I think, too. I don't think he's been a GM before.
No, he's been with the Broncos forever as like a scout to now. I mean,
he's been to like assistant director of scouting or something like that, right?
He's moved up, but he's been the assistant GM the past few years because George Payton promoted him to like the 2nd in command for the past 4 years. But I mean, he was there like when John Elway was like just starting. I think John Elway brought him on with Spytek and a few other guys who are now GMs. But
so yeah, I think that he is probably going to be active on the phones one way or the other. He's probably calling teams that are ahead of him. He's probably calling teams that are behind him just to kind of get the word out. And even if they don't wind up moving, even if they stick and pick at 7 and they take Tyler Warren, they take Jackson, or they take whoever, just starting those little things on draft day to get it moving, I think is going to be something big for him moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. Carolina, I still feel like they're gonna go edge still. I was thinking about giving them Tet to get their Mike Evans type of wide receiver that they still need, and kind of being like buying in on Bryce and helping him out.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like I need to get Shamarski in the top 10, so I don't know why I still feel like he's going in the top 10. And they need edge, and I just feel like he's the edge. I think I've done this before.
Yep, he did 2 weeks ago.
But man, it just reminds me, like, I think about the Panthers and like Julius Peppers. I'm not saying he's Julius Peppers, but that type of edge. It's just they need a game record. I don't care that they have Clowney.
Mike Green also just feels like a Panther too. That's the only.
Yeah, I mean that's
between those two.
True. I'm pretty sure me or you. I'm pretty sure I've given them Mike Green before. Maybe one of the first weeks, or like maybe like right after the. It was maybe after the Senior Bowl or like the Combine. Don't remember, but yeah. But I'm gonna give him Stewart. I just think they need a game wrecker on edge, and I think he has all the tools to develop into one of the better pass rushers in the NFL.
I like it. Saints. Saints are all in on Derek Carr.
Sure they are.
Future of the franchise.
Yep.
Isaac Yiadom, starting left cornerback.
Broncos legend.
Yep. What don't the Saints need is maybe a better question to ask than what do the Saints need.
I think. Well, their interior offensive line's pretty okay, but I guess I could use it in regard probably. I think their linebackers are solid. You could say maybe you could use a couple younger guys.
Defensive line, I guess, is fine.
Yeah, fine-ish.
Right. Not fine enough to not take a guy that you like, but fine enough that when you're looking at the rest of the roster, I'm saying you're probably not addressing it in the first round, I guess is a better way to put it.
Probably not.
You have Foskey, you took in the second round last year. If you like him enough to step up, you obviously like Chase Young enough to pay him $8 trillion or whatever the hell they just gave him.
True. I think they could use a nose, even though they got Godchow. I think they could use a better nose,
True.
but that's still, like, I think they could use Kenneth Grant if they were going to take one, because I think Kenneth Grant would be a perfect nose for them. And their defensive line would probably be awesome if they did that.
They have Keanu Saunders. It's easy.
Yeah, sure, whatever.
I'm taking Ted. He slipped for us the past few mocks that we've done, I think. They don't have a guy like that on roster.
What do you mean, Juwan Johnson? They're like the same size.
Okay. At the wide receiver position. Olave is cooked. He is going to retire after the season.
That's weird.
Rashid Shaheed is fast, but nothing else. I've never heard of Kevin Austin in my life. I don't think he actually exists.
Shaheed is a good route runner, and is good after the catch. He just is always dead.
Well, yeah, so is Olave.
But anyways, unfortunately. But yeah.
Bug means business, but that's not stopping you from the Ted offensive.
Did I give them Golden last week?
I think so.
I think I gave them a wide receiver. I think we were talking about it.
Gave him Golden.
Yeah, I think I did. That's just crazy. Alright, well you locked in Ted, so.
Yep.
Marion Hansen, no.
Already took him.
I'd be upsetty.
Move on.
I would be upset if 2 running backs went that early as a team who needs a running back.
You'd be sick.
I hate that depth chart.
David Montgomery 2.0.
Yeah, if you want to say that.
The Bears, I think, are probably, if I had to name one team that I would call the winners of free agency to this point, they're probably that team. Or the winners of the offseason pre-draft. They're probably the winner of that.
Just because they addressed the offensive line. I think
they addressed all the needs. Defensive line, Odenigbo, Grady Jarrett were huge needs. Dahlman, Thuney, Jonah Jackson, knowing that you don't need to address those positions in the draft. They still have DJ Moore. They have Rome. I would probably want to upgrade off Olamide Zaccheaus personally.
Right.
But he's okay.
They could still even bring back Keenan Allen for all we know.
Yep. Or any of the other thousands of free agents. Diggs. It was... God damn it. But they have Tyreek Stevenson, who I think they like enough. Johnson, Kyler... Like, these guys are... They have a solid defense in terms of starters. They could use some depth. They could use some depth on the offense. But they don't have any massively gaping, glaring holes, which we've come to expect from the Bears in recent years. I would say the biggest need probably is actually one running back.
I think I'm going to do something kind of not crazy, but I'll explain it. Which one do I? So I'll tell you this. My first thought was my first thought was to take good old. It seems high, but Eman Wari to kind of be the guy behind Kevin Byard because he's not getting any younger. I think that would be a good move for them. I think it's probably a little early, as much as I like Eman Wari. You can make a case for Starks instead. I kind of think Eman Wari is going to go before Starks, but I'm going to give them Will Campbell still, and I'm going to explain why. I was between Campbell and M'Boue, but I'm going to do Campbell. And my reasoning here is you have Joe Thuney right now at left tackle, right? He is, left guard. He's 32. He's had a little bit of injury history. I don't remember what their contract is for him. I'll have to look that up. But I don't think it matters to me. You've added Jonah Jackson, who I don't know what his contract is either, but he's also your starter, and you feel pretty good about it. I think that they're going to want, especially with how the board fell.
Joe Thuney's going into the last year of his deal.
That's what I thought. I thought he was at least easily could be getting out of the contract, but yeah. So 1 year deal. I think Braxton Jones is the left guard next year.
He would be a hell of an eligible receiver too.
Yeah. Put him at, or even as your sixth lineman, like you can put him in some sets and run 6 offensive linemen and just run the crap out of the ball sometimes. So probably seems like a weird pick now because they're things that they've addressed, but it just seems like it would be a smart move for them, and I think it'd be something that Ben Johnson would be. Hey, they've made offensive line such a priority, and I think that they just want to keep it that way. And a couple of these guys that they've signed have a little bit of injury history. So, and then again, Braxton Jones has not proven anything to me, at least, that he should be a long-term starter going forward. So, yeah, we're gonna take a little shot here at Will Campbell, best player available, because they've done so well with their needs.
I like that. Niners probably don't love that.
No, he would have been an awesome pick for them. Although there's still a few things that I like.
Yeah.
Even on the offensive line, I still think there's one that
M'Boue would make a lot of sense for him.
Correct. You'd fit in at right tackle day one, or you can put him at guard.
But I just feel like the Niners always have a defensive weapon. And I feel like between Hufanga, and I know they have Fred Warner, I get that. Between losing Hufanga, losing Greenlaw, they are missing something.
Mustafa could become that guy. He looked amazing last year.
He could. And I
not
like
trying
him.
to derail what you're saying, but
I like him, but Mustafa could also just be a guy that you want to play deep with Jair and isn't necessarily going to be the hybrid type thing. I'm also thinking they could potentially be looking at
He's
Barron.
the thumper guy.
Right.
Yeah, right.
They could look at Barron to
they could definitely look at Barron. Yeah. They need secondary in general.
But
could they take Jihad?
They could.
Did I do that
I
last week?
Hate that. I don't think so. I think you gave him M'Boue last week.
Oh, probably.
Jordan Elliott and Evan Anderson is a bad starting combo for them. And I think it just makes you want to take Grant.
I think they need defensive line. Maybe worse. Them and the Dolphins need it more than any team, in my opinion, right now.
Yeah, I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
There's a couple things that I was thinking about doing. I also almost gave them Tyler Warren as their George Kittle replacement. But
I could see that, actually. The fact that he's still on the board.
Yeah.
Okay. Good old Cowboys.
Does a team, and again, we've just been rolling with these past few picks because these teams had needs and all that. Does a team jump the Dolphins for
Defensive lineman?
Tyler Warren, Barron?
Oh, yeah, that's true. Maybe even Membu.
Maybe Membu, something. I don't know. I'm just...
I
don't want to forget about the fact that we're doing trades.
Do any of your teams want to move up? I'm looking at mine now. I'll tell you what. I could see the Colts moving up a couple picks.
See the Colts
if they
moving
really
up a
want
couple
Tyler
picks.
Warren. When they're afraid the Dolphins might take him.
Honestly, I could see the Broncos moving up. If they, again, I'm not saying that they should do this or will do this, but I think Peyton is aggressive in getting his guy.
I think if Janty was still here, that they would move up. I think it depends on if they want Warren.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
It would have to be for Warren.
I know that I'm not saying Evan Ingram stops you from doing that. I just am afraid of what the cost would be.
Yep.
And us not being able to get the running back. Still.
Well, hold on.
Because we need him badly.
What former first-round picks are on your roster that you could trade to the Cowboys?
Wouldn't be any that we drafted, I don't think. At least lately, all of ours have been good that we've drafted lately. I don't think we have any top of my head.
Maybe not.
We have a lot of our own guys.
Maybe not. Was Ben Powers a first?
I don't think so. Yeah, we have a lot of our own drafted guys, besides a few guys we got in free agency, but I don't think any of them were firsts.
That's fair. All right, well, maybe we'll just table that conversation then.
No,
But
I think it's a good
possible.
thought, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I would like it as long as we... I wouldn't want to give up a future one. And I don't... And I honestly wouldn't love giving up our... And I think we'd have to do one or the other.
Well, let's just
So...
look at what it could look like. I'm not saying we should do it, but 20 and 12, and maybe pick 85.
I think it's the Steelers a few years ago, or a lot of years ago, up for Devin Bush from 20 to 10. I think it was 20, and you guys gave us like
way too much.
Well, I think that's how much it probably cost. Still, I think it's going to be. I mean,
it wasn't actually that much. It was that
no,
much.
but you gave us like
what...
two twos, and a 3. You gave us our 2 that year. Well, we
gave you the first and second and our next year's third.
Was that it?
Yep.
First, second, okay. Yeah.
And next year's third. So I'm saying it could be a first, the third this year and a third next year, or just the first and second this year. You're trading up a couple fewer spots.
I would even maybe
20
do
to 12 instead of 20 to 10.
If it was 85 and next year's 2, I could even maybe fathom that if they loved Warren enough.
Right. Again, I'm not saying that it would happen.
No,
I just think
it's an interesting thought, for sure. If Janty was here, I would have already probably made the suggestion.
Yep.
It's just like, I want to know what
Tyler Warren and Evan Ingram does enough different things, or can do enough different things.
Get them both in the field, like
right.
With how our receivers are set up, Ingram could just play slot for us.
Yep.
Like starts, and then Warren can play as the actual tight end.
Yep.
And they can both be on the field.
Yep.
It doesn't stop you; it just adds flexibility. So
you could play Tyler Warren as an H-back too, and have Ingram come out of the actual tight end spot. Like, there's a lot of things that you could do with it. And again, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I just think that Sean Payton is going to get his guys. And
I think with how the Broncos have addressed free agency, that they probably will be aggressive. And if they don't trade up in the first round, I think if they don't take a running back At 20, they take wide receiver, defensive line, whatever. I think there's a good chance if they like one of these running backs at the beginning of the second round that they probably move up. Was one of the things I was thinking about doing.
Yep.
Which actually I couldn't because you own that pick in the second round. But I actually think you've talked me into this. If we can do 20, 85, and I would even do a 2 next year, but the Cowboys have to send us back, let's say, like 247 this year, and then like maybe like 204 this year, I guess. So 12-204 for 20-85 and a second next year, I think I would do. Which seems maybe even a little too much, but I don't know. Maybe not.
Run it?
Yeah, let's do it. And then Denver's going to take Kyle Warren. So, boom. Done. I'm a happy boy in that situation.
Hell yeah.
Okay. So, now we're back up to you.
Dolphins are taking Bembu, and I'm not thinking twice about it. They need offensive
they
line. Tua's blind side is his right tackle. He's athletic. He does everything that they want him to do. He is an absolute tank and a beast of a human being who's very comfortable at right tackle. Yes, that hasn't been blindside in the past, and I don't think it would be difficult for him to step into that and just take off with it.
I agree.
Good run blocker, too, if they want to run the ball more, which they obviously should be doing more of.
Yeah.
I just think it makes too much sense.
I agree. The Colts.
And just to piggyback, before we get too far away from that Broncos one, I'm not saying if they would do it, but if Peyton really loves Warren, he is the guy. They could do it. And the next two picks, the Dolphins and the Colts both are probably taking Tyler Warren. One of the two of them is probably taking Tyler Warren.
Yeah.
Before
the Seahawks pick. Also could.
Yep.
Obviously that's a little further down. I mean, I still think there's a world the Bengals could just be crazy and do it, even with signing Gesicki. I think it's not likely now, but but yeah, no, I do agree with them probably being aggressive. So
right, and it doesn't even have to be the Broncos either. There's other teams that I think could be aggressive and move up for the tight end that they want.
If Warren falls out of the top 10, I think it's likely because I think he's a top 10 player.
I agree. The Chargers could do it.
Oh yeah.
The Rams could do it. They probably shouldn't do it, but they could do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
26-12 is probably too big of a jump for them to stomach it, but I mean, think about his fit in that scheme would be disgusting. So
unless they like Loveland too, I mean, I wouldn't hate that. But I think I might still take Loveland here. That's what I'm looking at right now. I think the Colts just need tight end so bad. So bad. Maybe even definitely worse than the Broncos now. Thus having Ingram.
Yeah.
They've had nobody. I guess they have Alberto now. I didn't know that.
Yep. He signed there last year,
I
think.
Or I forgot about that, yeah.
They did also just lose Kylan Granson to the Eagles, so...
Oh yeah, that's a feeble mover too. Man, they could use. I think Campbell's going in the top like 16 pick. I really do. He could use another linebacker next to Zaire.
You mean to replace Zaire?
Is he gone?
Not officially, but
Still, I mean their linebackers. I think their linebackers might be that or tight end are their two weakest spots. You can say guard maybe.
And I would argue that tight end is weaker because their quarterback can't throw to the players anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
catching. So
if Daniel Jones is starting, I'm not even a big Daniel Jones, but I'd like them taking that. I'm going to go Campbell here because I think they need linebacker horribly bad, and I think he's going to go at in this slot of picks.
I like it.
And he can kind of help with them getting some more pressure. So I know we've talked about he is good from he's a good pass rusher from the middle, and also has coverage skills, and I think he could develop into that alpha for their defense.
He probably would have been my pick here if you hadn't taken him there. So
Sorry.
You're good. I just think that, like you said, I think he's a top player, top.
Yeah.
15,
I would be
player.
shocked if he's not picked. Even the Cardinals don't say they need a linebacker, but like, I guess I'll say the Bengals would be his floor probably because they just need a guy too.
Right. I think you took him to the Falcons last week because
I probably
we
did.
talked about how Divine Diablo doesn't stop you from doing that. So
yeah, I did.
I think
right.
that somewhere in that range, the Bengals or the Falcons, somewhere in this vicinity, is his floor. You lost Rondale.
Oh, I know you're gonna do it.
I'm thinking about it.
Actually, well, I think there's a couple good options here.
There are a couple. I'm thinking. Barron would be sick.
He would.
In that defense.
I agree.
I think Starks would be sick in that defense.
Yeah.
But, like, Leonard Floyd is so old. How do they not take Mike Green?
I don't know.
I'm not going to stop doing it. Every single freaking year, we give them edge rushers, and every single freaking year they don't do it. It's like the Seahawks and guards.
Sure.
I'm not going to stop doing it because it's the right pick. I know that we're trying to be predictive. I understand that comprehensively. I get it. And I want to be predictive. But it's so hard to be predictive sometimes when the prediction makes no logical sense.
Maybe with Raheem here. I mean, obviously he was there last year, but they obviously just love pinning.
Right.
But
I think at this point, Mike Green is the best player on the board.
Arguably, yes. So, yeah.
Barron could be up there. Starks could be up there. Emanwari at this point could be up there for you.
Yeah.
But Mike Green looked so good at the Senior Bowl in all of his reps. Small school, I get that. I'm not. It's not going to stop me. I'm taking him.
I like that a lot. Not to, just make both of our teams move up. Do you think it's possible the Steelers move up for Barron or Will Johnson?
I think it's possible. I think that at this point, with Dart gone.
Or do you think they'd move back to try to get the pick that they sent for DK?
It's possible. I think that they just need to kind of wait it out.
Okay.
Again, Eccles and Darius Slade don't stop me from taking a cornerback here. And yes, to your point, Barron probably shouldn't be here right now, so there is definitely a world that they could move up for him. Will Johnson, I think they would probably just stick at 21 and hope that he keeps sliding with some of the injury stuff if they're planning on taking him. He does kind of fit the mold of what the Steelers like at cornerback. But like we could take a running back if Hampton and Henderson are there. That wouldn't surprise me. I don't think we actually need tackle. I don't really know why that's still listed as a need. I get because Broderick Jones hasn't been great, but like he's
give him another year.
Still got 2 more years, and he still has never played his natural position. So I'm not stressed about that at this point.
For sure.
There's not a quarterback I think we should take in the first round. I know that we're probably going to wind up taking Miller now because they just want me to not be alive anymore.
God, I hope not for your sake.
But like between Barron, Starks, Will Johnson, Emanwari, and honestly, they could still, if all 4 of those guys are gone by their pick, they could just take a stab at Matthew Golden.
Yeah.
And if all 5 of those guys are gone, then maybe they trade back or they take Ibuka. I don't know. But I think that if they identify Barron or Emanwari or Will Johnson or Malachi Starks as the guy that they want, and honestly, any of the defensive linemen at this point too, Harmon, Alexander, Nolan, could be in the realm too. I know they took defensive line off of our needs list, which is really confusing to me because we didn't address it at all. We brought back Isaiah Loudermilk on a 1-year deal, which has not moved the needle for me in any capacity.
Good question.
So shout out for that PFF. But
definitely be there over the tackle. It should be a defensive tackle for sure.
Right. It's just confusing to me because it literally was there last week, and it's not anymore. Anyway, neither here nor there. Yeah, I think they would stick here, and maybe I'm wrong about that because I don't know that I would have predicted they moved up for Broderick Jones the year that we did that. I still like that move, and it's certainly possible if they say that Barron is the guy, or if they say that Will Johnson or whoever is the guy, I could definitely see him moving up. And if they're going to move up, it probably has to be here, frankly, because they're not trading up with the Bengals. The Seahawks probably wind up taking one of those guys that they want, more than likely. Maybe not. I mean, I know they aren't listed as a need anymore, but
I think with you guys not having a 2 also, it makes it a little to stomach moving up. So.
Correct.
Not that you can't, but yeah, I just want to kind of talk about it because I was thinking like who would trade up here with Ward, and I was like, well, there are some corners here that might not, be or that are probably valued a little higher. I mean, I know Will Johnson might be slipping a little bit, but I was gonna just take Barron or Will Johnson for the Cardinals here because I think they could use a corner, but I think I'm gonna give him Gray Zabel to play center.
I like that. I think I actually saw that.
I did. It was. I think it was
Daniel Jeremiah.
Yeah. It was. I saw that, and I really. I think there's enough. I know, obviously, there's not a Barron, but or Will Johnson, but there's enough good corners in round 2. Enough corners I'd like to take stabs on that. I think Zabel's just the best interior offensive lineman, maybe in the draft. Definitely, I think the best center.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good stab for them, and it's a pretty safe-ish pick. I think, obviously, from playing for North Dakota State, you can argue that maybe it's not safe, but from what I've seen, he just feels like he's going to slide right into an offensive line and start for years.
Yeah, I agree.
So, yeah, on to the Bengals.
On to Cincinnati.
Yep.
Once again, how is guard their biggest need? I'm not saying they have good guards. I don't think they do. Cody Ford and Cordell Volson do not move the needle for me. But they don't have a functional defense.
Ooh.
Their defense is in shambles.
I don't know.
It is collapsing by the second. They literally don't have an edge rusher. Joseph Osai is not good enough to warrant not taking an edge.
I agree.
And edge isn't even listed as a need.
Yeah, it's a little silly. I agree.
Anyway, I'm gonna try to make that my last rant against PFF today, since they were gracious enough to let us use their glorious website here.
Sure.
So yeah, obviously Tyler Booker's the biggest need.
Yeah, I can see it.
I could see it, but it shouldn't be what they do.
I agree. There's too many good players on the defensive side of the ball still on the board.
Malachi Starks really gives them something that they haven't had since Jesse Bates.
Yeah, I think they're wanting Dax Hill to kind of be that. But
I know, but he's been hurt so much, and I did like that fit a lot. I think I mocked that to him about 165 times, and I loved when they did it. Hated it, obviously, but loved it.
Yeah.
But I can't. I don't know. I don't think that's enough to bank on, and with the players that are here, maybe they should take Barron over him so that they can let Dax Hill do that more, and they just have those two guys kind of duke it out between who's going to play that role and who's going to play the slot. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let me just take a look at it real quick, though. Mikel could go here. Oh, they feel like a Jalen Walker team.
See that too. I think he's going to go top 20.
But Chris Jenkins, BJ Hill, they could use And they basically get their pick of the litter here with these three guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to give them Harmon.
I like that. He's the best defensive. He's arguably the best pass rushing defensive lineman, even over Graham.
Yeah.
So he's a crazy disruptor. And they need pass rush. I mean, they need everything.
Yeah, they really do. So
I like that. Did you lock it in?
Yep, we're done.
Okay, making sure. Behind on the stream, so I couldn't tell. As much as I want to just give the Seahawks even more.
Because we've done it every week so far?
Well, besides the week I think I took them earlier and we couldn't.
Oh, true.
Who.
True.
But yeah. I was thinking about giving them Matthew Golden. I still think they can use a wide receiver because Cooper Kupp I think he's going to be a fine 2 for them. I think you need a guy that can play on the outside a little more. Golden, I think, in my opinion, could do that. But I'm actually going to give them Colson Loveland. And my reasoning, one, I mean, they have Noah Fant. I think he's like on a left, maybe 2. I don't remember. But Kubiak likes to use tight ends. And whether that's him playing, I mean, Loveland has the ability to play in the slot. He has the ability to play in line. Like he's not one of those guys that has to only be in the slot. Even though he can run the routes like a wide receiver, he can be played in that way. He is good enough at blocking to play in line. And I think that they're going to want to run the ball, give Sam Darnold some nice, easy completions over the middle. I know you can argue, well, they have Kupp, they have JSN, they don't need to get a tight end. Like that just adds too much in the middle. Well, Loveland, you could split out wide too. Like I've seen him play out wide. I've seen Kupp play out wide. I've seen JSN play out wide. They can all do a little bit of everything. You can just move them around. And again, it just helps your run game. If you have Noah Fant and Colson Loveland out there, I think that would be fine. It's not like you have to have MVS at wide receiver 3 playing slot all the time. I'd rather have Colson Loveland playing slot.
Right.
Or being the third guy, not necessarily even slot. So,
right.
I think that tight end's a bigger need for them than what people think, just because of their scheme. And Fant's been a solid player, but again, he's always hurt too. He can never finish the season. So, yeah. And Loveland's a top 20 player for me, talent. So I think he's gonna. I think he's going first round. I've seen people say he's not gonna, but I think there's a good chance. I would be shocked if he makes it past first. So.
Yeah, I like it.
We haven't done that yet.
I would have probably given them Tyler Booker because they need guard desperately, but they're not going to do it.
They do, but they're not going to take it. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man. How do I not take Barron here?
It's tough. They need edge badly, but Barron's the best player, and they need DB, so I think you have Barron. I think you have.
I take Barron here, and I know what you... I think I know what I would do if I was in your situation. I know that there's a couple people that you're going to talk about, but
I don't know, man. I don't know what I'm going to... I honestly don't know.
Okay.
All 4 of their needs that PFF has listed, I have a player in mind.
Yep.
Literally, all 4.
The one that I'm talking about is the one that is one of those positions, too. It's also the only one that I think is the one that they would be harder pressed to address later in the draft, which should tell you what it is.
Well, it's not running back.
No.
And I mean, okay, look, Matthew Golden's still on the board, man. I gave him to him at 12 a month ago. I don't know how long it was. It's hard for me to pass that up. I'll start with that. That is a tough thing for me. I think the Cowboys like building on offensive line. So, I mean, that's an obvious. Those are the 2 things that I think are sticking out to me the most. Like, edge, I think whatever. They could use one, but in my opinion, there's nobody that I'm like what you think Jalen Walker, maybe he's very Micah Parsons. Like, I don't know if you want two guys.
Yeah. But
was that who you were thinking?
Nope.
Okay.
I'm thinking Booker.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying with like offensive line. I mean, that seems like a Cowboy pick for sure.
Right. They just lost Zach Martin, and their starting right guard is Brock Hoffman.
I think it's a decently easy like pairing. Yeah, I was between Booker, Banks, because he's Hookem and he could play guard at a high level. In my opinion, I think his ceiling's higher too, in general. And then Golden, the other Hookem horn. Those are the three that I was originally thinking about. And then I was also, in the back of my mind, thinking about Hampton as well. Because it's the Cowboys and they didn't running back. But I would feel bad for Javonte to get overtaken by
the same player.
Well, let's not say that. But I also think there's an outside shot that they just take Will Johnson because they. But, no, man, it's so tough. I want to give them Golden so badly, but I think taking the offensive line is probably what they would do because they're going to want to run the ball. I think they can maybe take a wide receiver later. Question is it Booker or is it Banks? You know what? I'll give him Booker because I think he's a safer fit at guard than Banks. Banks is kind of would have to transition to that position. So yeah, I think Booker's a good pick for them. And it seems like such a Cowboys like 20 pick for them so much. So
yep,
like it seems like they're Travis Frederick type of pick where everybody's like, oh my god, I can't believe they took a center that early.
Yeah, I agree.
You got to think Will Johnson, don't
you? Do I?
Or we know. I mean, Walter Nolan, Golden. True, he's still here. It's true. I kind of forgot about him.
Deshaun Elliott played really well for us last year, so I don't think it is like a huge need that we absolutely need to do it. But I do think that it's a role that we try to play that we haven't really been able to.
Yeah.
But I hate Darius Slay so much. I have to take. I can't.
Hang on. Ring, ring.
Who's on the phone?
The Tennessee Titans.
Ooh.
Who have a couple extra picks.
Ooh, yeah.
Okay.
What are we thinking?
They wouldn't want to give you both seconds. I think that's too much.
Yeah, that's way too much.
Okay. Just wanted to start off with that.
Take it.
Let me. Oh yeah, I'm sure you will. Let me actually get to the picks so I can see what they have. Where they are. Well, I technically control 34, so 34. They don't have a ton of capital this year, but they would be willing, I think, to give. What's probably going to be. Oh, is that too much? I was thinking of giving their second next year, which is probably going to be early.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be a high second and probably another high second and then another pick this year, like 141. The other option would be maybe like 103 and you get the third next year from the Titans and maybe something else, like 27, like a fifth or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's any players that they would be willing to move that. At least nobody that would really move them.
No.
Here's Treylon Burks.
That would upset me actually very greatly.
Yeah, so I guess my first offer, and you can counter, it's going to be 34, 141, and a second next year. For straight up for this pick. I think.
I would probably do that. I think.
I mean, I
it would
think
be
honestly,
tough.
It's a little bit of an overpayment if that second's going to be early.
Right.
I think. Because I mean, but you're moving into the first from the second, even if it's an early.
You get the fifth-year option on the guy that you're trading up for.
So I think it's probably pretty close, and I think maybe the Titans would be willing to make 141, 103, and maybe get something back from the Steelers. But I mean, at this point, it's not going to really affect our mock too much.
Yeah.
So
I think for the sake of the mock, I want to do that just to see what would happen. I don't think the Steelers probably would trade back in this situation. I think that they would probably take Will Johnson.
Yeah.
If they were just sticking and picking here. If the board fell this way, maybe they take Starks. Maybe they take a different guy that they like. Again, I know they were working defensive lineman, but they lost a second rounder.
You gain what, like what's 40?
Picked up
fourth, fifth this year, and then probably an early that second's going to look nice next year.
That's what I'm saying.
Probably it's going to be a top 40 something pick, I think.
So and we're going to want to move up next year.
Get your quarterback next year.
Yep, 100%. Where if Dart was still here, I could see us taking Dart. Dart's not here, so I could see us trading back. With that said, I'm not going to over. So you said 141.
34 in round 2 next year.
Yeah.
For 21.
I think I would do that. If they wanted to give us 103 and have us give back like 185 or something, I'd probably do that too.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'd probably prefer to do that, obviously, but you're picking very high in the third.
Then we'll do 103, but you have to give back which one?
185?
156 instead of 185.
I'm just going to stick with 141. It doesn't matter for the sake of the mock, and I'm sure that it would look different on actual draft day what it could be. So
I agree.
Yeah, it's just
yeah. So the Titans took Abdul Carter. They're moving up here because, and you could argue, well, there's a bunch of wide receivers left. Why would they move? Well, there's some teams that are coming up that could take wide receiver. They traded in front of the Chargers. They traded in front of the Packers. They traded in front of the Texans. They traded, the Lions. It says it's their number one need. I don't know. Agree with that. But there's at least 3 teams in that range that could take them. And there's, in my opinion, 3 possible first-round wide receivers left.
Yep.
So I was sitting here thinking, like, who would move up? And it just made too much sense to me. So I'm going to give them Matthew Gold. I think they just need an alpha wide receiver. And I think he's my number 1 wide receiver in the class. So I think it would be a nice pick for whoever's going to play quarterback for them. It gives them somebody to build around on offense. He could be that A.J. Brown-esque type of guy that they've been missing since they gave him away from them. So,
Yep.
Let's run it.
I like it. Chargers are pissed.
Indeed, and that makes it even better for me as a Broncos fan.
Am I forgetting something about the Chargers roster? No, I'm not. They're taking Will Johnson. They picked up Dante Jackson on a 1-year deal, I think. They have Cam Hart and Tarheeb still.
Legends, man.
Will Johnson gets to reunite with Harbaugh, which is definitely the only reason I did it.
Hey, it fits.
They could take a wide receiver here. They probably should take a wide receiver here. They could take defensive lineman here. There's still very good wide receiver or defensive lineman here, but Will Johnson probably doesn't make it to 22 in reality.
Probably not, but you also never know. I mean,
I feel like crazy things happen all the time. I mean, again, we never know. Will Johnson could put out a video of him doing cocaine off of a baby doll that morning. So
yeah, but then the Raiders probably draft him at 6.
That's a good point. Maybe he gets into a car accident and kills a teammate, and it just gets swept under the rug 2 months before the draft.
Well,
Whoops!
You
Did I
never
say that
know.
out loud?
I didn't hear anything. All right. The Packers are taking Malachi Starks because Evan Williams doesn't stop me, and yeah. Well, they have Bullard though.
Evan Williams has stopped me multiple times, personally.
That's true. And Hobbs is their nickel. Man, I always hate picking for the Packers every time.
You're also locked in because I already took it, so.
Wait. You're picking for the Packers, not me.
Oh. Well.
We fucked up. I was supposed to pick for the Chargers.
How did we decide? Oh, because you traded
up. Because they trade up. That's fine. I'll just pick for the... Wait, did you already actually lock it in?
Yeah, well, that's who I was going to pick anyway, obviously, so. You're up for the Vikings.
Okay, that works. All right, Vikings.
They just added Hargrave, which probably doesn't stop you. Jonathan Allen, which might stop you.
I guess. I didn't look at it.
Honestly, they're probably pissed that Starks and Johnson both just went.
Probably.
Because it's probably too early for them to address cornerback. Although I think that they could be one of those teams that would take a Ravel, Hairston, or a Trey Amos towards the end of the first just to grab a guy.
Yeah, I can see Hairston. I don't agree with it fully, but I could see it.
I think
like Brindle enough to not play guard. I will see. This is the thing. Like, I think they could use running back, but they did just get. I know it's Jordan Mason, but they have him and Aaron Jones.
Yeah.
I don't know if they take one first round anymore, so that's why I caught myself out of that a little bit.
They also have Andrew Van Ginkel and Jonathan Grenard starting at edge, which is not bad. It's serviceable, but
yeah,
I don't know if it stops them from taking. Is Jalen Walker still here? He is still here.
I think I'm gonna do something else though. As much as I love Ivan Pace and Blake Cashman, I'm gonna go Demetrius Knight.
Ooh.
I don't think they stop from taking him. I still like Schlesinger more, but I think the Vikings are gonna value the size of Knight.
Mm-hmm.
Even though Schlesinger did, I guess he was bigger than people thought, but Knight's a little bit more of the imposing threat the way he plays, so I think it's going to be they tend and it's kind of different from what they have. Cashman and Pace are both a little bit more coverage guys.
He also just has smooth hips and coverage, which is huge for a linebacker.
Yeah, he's a pretty all-around linebacker, and I don't know if he goes round one, but these last like 10 picks ish of the first round, there's always guys that because teams are just like, well, we're not going to get him in the second round, so. This is a guy that we love, and he's close enough to, a first-round guy. So let's go ahead and snag him here. And that could be the case.
I'm between Josh Simmons protecting C.J. Stroud, which I think we actually have done before, but I think I'm going to give him Banks.
Yeah. Give him who? Oh, Banks?
Keep him in the state. I know that it lists wide receiver as their number one need, and they do need wide receiver. But a starting offensive line of Cam Robinson, Titus Howard, Jarrett Patterson, Juice Scruggs, and Blake Fisher is just unacceptable in the NFL.
I agree.
For your quarterback who's going into his third season, I mean, if you want to get him killed, sure. But he had a very, very, very good rookie year and then fell off the face of the planet last year, and your response to saying that he looked bad under pressure was to make sure that he was guaranteed to face the most pressure of any quarterback in the league. Just doesn't really make sense to me. Personally.
Yeah, I think you're pretty spot on.
Anywho.
Alright, so you took Banks, is that right?
Yep.
Okay. I want to give the Rams Schlesinger so bad, but there's not going to be 3 linebackers.
No, but there is a player who could kind of play linebacker for him.
Oh, well, there's two now that I'm thinking of. If you're thinking Walker, then I don't agree. I don't think he's good at that. If you're thinking Eman Wari,
that's the one.
then yeah, I would like that for them.
Cam Curl and Cam Kinchins probably don't stop you.
Tackle anymore. There's not a corner here that I love enough. Yeah, you know what? Fuck it. Eman Wari. I like that. I like that a lot for that division and the way that they. I mean, they have a lot of budget beasts on that defense, that guys that people don't know, and just adding that force in the back end like that would be nice for them.
Yep. I agree. And the Ravens take Jalen Walker.
What a Ravens pick.
I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed.
What a Ravens pick, man. That's beautiful scenes for them. Wow. The Lions. I still like. Hang on, I gotta look at that. I like Darius Alexander for them. It doesn't say. Just they signed somebody, didn't they? That's why.
Not really. They have Roy Lopez.
DJ Reader, I think Lopez. We got some. Okay, got. I guess I can understand why they need wide receiver.
Yep.
Nah, I'm just gonna give him Alexander. I think he's the knee biter of the bunch. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
I like it. I could see them trying to grab an offensive lineman to play guard. I just don't think there's one that's here at this point that fits that need.
No, if Booker or Zabel or even Banks was here, I would probably go that route, as I was thinking about that. Simmons, I just think he's right or left tackle more than anything.
Yeah. How many years does Debo have on his contract? Did he just sign a new extension?
Debo? I don't think he did, no.
I think he took a pay cut.
I don't remember. He only has a couple years, I think, if not just one or two. That's just a guess. I haven't looked, but it's not a lot. I don't think it stops him from taking a wide receiver.
He is a free agent next year.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Now the question is which one? And I know that they have Terry, so they could use wide receiver 2. Egbuka might be the better fit. But I think the way that my brain is working around it is with Adam Peters there.
Learn from Debo.
Exactly. The fact that they acquired Debo to do the gadgety kind of shit tells me that they want a gadgety type wide receiver. And I think that Burden fits that better than Egbuka.
Here's a hot take for me, and I'm not saying do this at all. I'm not saying do this at all. But I think there is a small chance, just because I love this player so much, that they're just like, you know what, we need an alpha X big wide receiver. Let's go get Jaden Higgins to take. I could see that. But people would freak out because obviously Burden and Egbuka are on the clocks or on the board still, and I get it. But, and I'm not saying do this at all because I don't know that I would, but it was a thought that ran through my head. But
yeah,
I do like
Burden. Though. Smile.
Yeah. Well, I love Luke, but not in that role.
Yeah. They could still use edge too. I might have to take James Pierce. Because Clellan Farrell and Dorrance Armstrong don't do it for me.
Yeah.
And they probably need defensive help more than wide receiver help. They brought Noah Brown back. Michael Gallup, the savior, is coming out of retirement.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about him.
Yeah, I'm just going to do that. He's probably the best player available at this point. Yes, maybe he's not a true edge, but or not, maybe he has character concerns and whatever other stuff. He is definitely a true edge, but I think I just have to do it.
Yeah.
I think that they would take the shot at trying to figure out the character concerns, and maybe they wouldn't because they've done so much over the last 5 years, and by 5 years I mean 2 years, to fix the culture of that franchise. But I think that they are taking edge at some point in this draft, and I could see it being here with the wide receiver depth that's still available. And yes, I can make the same argument for edge depth, but I'm just going to lock that in.
I like that. Man. I was going to look at a trade, but I think the value of Izaraku still being here is wild. I love Izaraku. The Bills need to replace Von Miller. I don't care they got Joey Bosa at all. I don't care. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take someone that we've had fall before, but I've heard from my Bills insider people that they like Trey Amos, and they just lost Kyrie Young. So I'm going to give them Trey Amos.
Is lost the correct terminology when referring to Kyrie Elam?
No, they shoot him away.
Okay.
Sorry. But yeah, I think Amos, me personally, in my rankings as well, I'm going to have Amos above Harrison, above Revel, above Porter, and above Thomas. So he's my next corner, and I've heard that the Bills like him. Don't know if it's true, but it's people that talk to people that are inside of the organization. I've seen them talk about Trey Amos being a fit with Buffalo. So yeah. I think it's a bigger need for them now, especially.
I like it. I'm locking in Josh Emmons and not thinking twice about it.
Yeah, I think him or Connolly here makes
one of the two. Sense. They have to take. Yeah. They have to take tackle.
I don't care that they traded or signed more. It doesn't matter to me either. I think they take tackle. I think they have to.
Yep.
Oh. Well. I want to give them an edge, like Izaraku, because he fell. I'm giving them Luther Burden. I know it says it's their number one need. I don't think I agree. I just don't think they have a lot of needs.
Yeah.
But A.J. Brown is not old by any means. But the way that the Eagles are kind of built this, there's going to be a point when they're going to have to shed some money. And I think they're going to keep paying Devonta. He's young. I think giving yourself flexibility to possibly lose A.J. Brown in a couple years is smart. I think Luther Burden, obviously you're going to have all three of these guys for the next couple years, more than likely, unless you do move off of one of them. I think all three of these guys are versatile enough that they're all going to be on the field. And, I mean, he could very easily just be the best player available for them. I like Mbuka better, but the way that they could use Burden in that gadgety style, he starts over Jahan Dotson. I don't even know if Dotson...
He's still
he's still under contract, but, I don't really care. Burden's just better. And, kind of like I said before, they don't have a ton of needs. Sure, you can make a case that, do you draft the tackle of the future and get Connolly? I think you did it last week, and I love that. I think that would be super smart of them to do. We haven't seen them go wide receiver because I think it's a little out there, even though it says it's their first need, which I'm guessing maybe it has the fact that I think it's more likely people think that they lose one of those two wide receivers. I think eventually they're not going to be able to pay them both with the way that they've paid other guys.
I listened to Philly Sports Radio a couple weeks ago talking about them trading A.J. Brown to the Patriots. so he could
I
reunite
remember you
with
telling me
Vrabel.
that.
Which pissed me off tremendously because I think that that's a stupid take, and Philly sports radio is one of the most degenerate, horrible pieces of media.
I don't think they would do it now. I think it's possible if Brown, like if AJ wants more money, and they're gonna have, and eventually Devonta's gonna need a new contract.
Yep.
Not super long from now. That.
Well, he signed an extension though.
Who did? Devonta?
Yeah, didn't he?
I thought it was like maybe. Was it last year? For some reason I was thinking it was like.
No, I guess it was only a 3-year deal.
Anyways, if they.
He's there through 2028.
Yeah, well, let's say these wide receivers start getting more money, and 2026, 2027, he wants a raise, and it's like, well, we can't give you a raise, so then we have a little bit of flexibility.
Right.
I'm not saying that they want to trade these guys, but
Yep.
you know how it is with these wide receivers. Like, they're going to hold out. They're going to want more money. Chase just got $40-something million a year. Like,
Yep.
I'm not saying Devonta's going to be like that. A.J. Brown, I could definitely see you doing that. He's kind of done it before. So I don't know. I think best player available. I think the way that they use their wide receivers in creative ways, it's going to help Hurts tremendously. Just having more options to throw the ball to, guys that can get racked, like, so he doesn't have to make these crazy reads down the field, like, these timing routes. He can just get the ball out to the playmakers and they can make plays. So that's what we're going to do.
I like it. Yeah, and to your point too, we haven't given them wide receiver to this point because I don't think that Aguka or Burden fell this far in any of the mocks we've done to this point. So that's also part of it.
I think Burden maybe has it
He might have,
but
I think there was somebody else that we had as a bigger need for them.
It was probably like Darius Alexander or something was there. Like,
that's actually, I think that's exactly who it was. Now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, right.
Am I taking the next 3 picks then, or how are we doing this? Since we
I don't care. I mean,
earlier.
if you want to be nice and let me pick for the Titans again, we could do that. But if not,
yeah, let's just do that. Make up
doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, let's do that. So they took Shador in the first, and they grab an in-state weapon and Aguka to keep him happy.
Yeah, I like that. That's a lot. That's 2 good route runners with him and Judy.
Yep.
And then Tillman on the outside. That makes a lot of sense.
This is the Steelers' only pick in this.
Well, they also. Oh yeah, you're right. That's true. That is true.
In this mock, they don't go safety here. Tackle's
There's
not a need.
a couple guys that fell here though.
So in my mind, there's 2 guys that they're between at this point, and it would be Walter Nolan if they want to go DT, which they could. How big is Scorley?
I agree.
He's not huge, is he? No.
He's
not small, but
well, he played at 280, but if he didn't play as well, his better playing weight is like 260, where he played before he played at Texas A&M. I think it was at Temple, I think. But yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think that he would be the guy that we would take. I'm between Nolan and Hampton here.
Yep, those are the exact 2 I was thinking of.
And I think if we address running back with a guy, it still doesn't stop us from taking a running back early. We probably don't use our first on it, but since this is first isn't a first, maybe we do. And I think that's the route that I'm going to go. Hampton gives us a more diverse backfield with Jalen Warren there. Walter Nolan is nice, but again, we brought back Loudermilk, so maybe he's not a huge need. Obviously, PFF doesn't think DT is a need at all for us anymore, but I disagree with that.
Yeah, I think either one of those guys would be a nice pick, and I think worth the move down for you guys for sure. All right, so Titan.
Carter and Golden so far.
Nice little draft to start, for sure. There's definitely not a quarterback I'd be taking for them here. They've addressed their other 2 as PFF thinks it needs. Linebackers up there, Schlesinger would be kind of fun, I'm not going to lie.
That's exactly what I thought you were going to do.
Man, if they did not sign Dan Moore, I would give them Connerly so fast.
Does it
so
stop
fast.
You? Does it really stop you?
It shouldn't, but I don't think they will. They gave him so much money, and you have Lath. Like, could he play guard? Yes, but Wait, who's the right guard? They have Skronsky.
Kevin Zeitler.
It was only on a 1-year deal, right? I think.
I think so.
So it doesn't fully stop. I also like Xavier Watts for them. I think he'd be a nice free safety start. I think this is about his ceiling of where he could go, though. I don't think he's.
So, just so you are aware of this, according to Spot Track, there is a potential out in Dan Moore's deal after 2 years with $0 in dead cap. I'm not saying that has to change anything for you, but
I know
there's $50 million guaranteed, and the $50 million comes, it looks like, in the first 2 years, basically.
Yeah. Here's what I'm thinking. Is that... I know people are going to be like, oh, they have, what, Arden Key and... Is it Leonard Floyd? Do they have Leonard Floyd, or is that a different thing?
No, they have Draymond Jones.
That's who it is, Draymond Jones. I mean, I love Yusuraku so much that pairing him with Abdul Carter would be fun. I just don't think they'd do it with how they have things built. I think they would probably try to trade down, because they just traded up to gain some more picks. I think it's a board fill like this. We'll look really quick. Who would want edge? There's a couple edges here, and then Connerly. Ooh. Okay. Let me fix this. Just to do this. One second. I'm thinking maybe.
I can see the Cowboys doing it.
I was thinking the Jets to play right tackle.
Oh, you're saying for Connerly?
Yes. Yeah. Sorry, I did edge or tackle because they just drafted Jackson Dart. Like you want to give him some more protection.
Right.
Then
Fields, frankly, too.
Correct.
If you want to compete right now.
So if the Jets sent 42, 35, and then they also gave 73. Is that enough to move up? I mean, it's only the Titans would have to give back like something 188.
I'm thinking 42, 110, and a 2026, like 4.
For 35?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or even 42 and a 2026 3, maybe.
I think they would want another pick this draft, so I think 110 and then the 4 probably makes. It gives them another pick because they had to give away their second
to
you guys to trade up. So I think that makes sense. And the Jets were my team to do that for, right? I think 42. Yep. Yeah. Okay. Sweet. So let's make that happen. And then with the Jets, I'm gonna take Conner here.
I like it.
Actually, wait. It's back to me. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Messing me up. Mason Graham was their first round pick. Ooh. How bad do they need defensive line? Because they take Walter Nolan too. They need a couple guys, don't they? I think they do. That would be nasty.
They have Devon Hamilton and Mason Smith.
Eric thinking
Armstead is also floating around down there, but he's buried on their depth chart for some reason.
Wide receivers, they have Brian Thomas. Who else did they just get?
De'Ambi Brown, Gabe Davis, Josh Cephas, Parker Washington.
I think they could take Jaden Higgins.
Yeah.
Because they just, I mean, not that they're even close to the same player, but Liam just got done being with Mike Evans.
Yep.
Okay, go up and get it.
And they already traded away Christian Kirk, which was the closest thing that they probably had to it.
Gabe Davis has the length and stuff, but he's not
bad.
a good guy at all. He's just a deep threat. And Brian Thomas is, I think Nolan would be fun for them, and they need to really badly. But I'm going to give him Higgins. I think they're going to want to give Liam a weapon with one of these first 2 picks if
Like if they can, I think best you could make it an argument for. But I think, in my opinion, Higgins is going to come.
I like it.
All right, back to you.
Raiders took Genty in the first. Let me look at their depth chart again real quick. I guess they kind of do need DT to an extent. Kuntz kind of plays that role for him. They don't like need it. So I could see them going Nolan, but at the same time, their wide receiver room is rough, like bad. Ramel Keaton, Trey Tucker can't catch the ball. Jacoby Myers is fine in the slot, but he can't be your number one guy, which honestly, even with the wide receivers left, he probably still has to be. Betch or Restrepo, I could see. Actually, Trey Harris. Trey Harris could be Trey Tucker and Trey Harris. And Gino Los's Ole Miss wide receivers, smile. Yeah, I don't think that's crazy. I think if Higgins was here, I would have taken him for sure.
That's the whole reason why I took Higgins.
But I think I'm gonna go Trey Harris instead.
Yeah, I like
think
that.
It makes sense. Back to you.
Yeah, I also think Trey Harris could make an argument instead of Higgins.
Yeah, I think it just depends on what they're looking for, but I think to your point, Higgins projects more as the Mike Evans type guy than Harris does.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah.
The Patriots took Travis Hunter.
Man.
Here's what you're manning about.
I wonder.
I think they need offensive line horribly. So they're honestly they might have been the team to trade up to get Connerly.
They have Morgan Moses, smile, and Vidarian Lau, smile.
Yeah, look at the left side of their offensive line.
Yeah, Vidarian. Great.
Who?
Vidarian Lau?
I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
I mean, I do, but I wish I didn't. Cam Scatterbo to be the Derrick Henry for.
Well,
I'm gonna give them. I'm gonna give them Izarafu because Harold Landry is not that guy. He's just not. He's just okay. And I think Vrabel's gonna want. You can make a case for Walter Nolan, but I think they need a true pass rushing help. And look at their
what about Caleb Von Chaisson and those pass rushing drills that he does?
Oh, yeah, that makes me want to give them Izarafu even more. I think.
Really? Because that makes me want to give them. Makes me want to give them Landon Jackson.
That's actually funny. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't think about that.
They can both hit the speed bag together.
True.
As Araku stays in Boston College too, Boston area.
Yeah. I just think he's best player available, and it's at a position of need. So yeah.
I like it.
Run it.
My man was to them adding Travion Henderson, but I don't know that it's necessary.
If I was going to give him a running back, I would have given him Jeffkins, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that's fair. I just think that Henderson's ability to catch.
So I did think about that.
They love their receiving type backs in New England typically.
Yeah.
Will Campbell went in the first.
Yeah, spicy pick. Oh, dude. Ma'am. Okay, never mind. I'm not going to say anything. I think you'll probably end up doing it, so it doesn't matter.
Xavier Watts, is that what you're thinking?
That's a good thought, but that's not what I was thinking. That's actually a really good thought. I didn't even think about that
last week, so that's why I said it.
Yeah. That does seem like something I would do.
They could go running back though too.
Mm-hmm.
Trayvon Henderson feels like Jahmyr Gibbs. Cam Skadagoo feels like David Montgomery.
Mm-hmm.
Quinshon Judkins feels like none of the above.
Yeah.
How bad do they need safety?
Well, Byard's older.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like 32, I think, right? 31. I mean, he's at that age for safety where
They
it's
start
iffy
falling
each
off
year.
the cliff. They could do a defensive line though too. Walter Nolan would be.
That was the guy I was thinking, but
But they just got
I know
Grady Jarrett.
I know they just added. It's
And
just,
I think they like Dexter a good amount too.
defensive line is just one of those positions where like
I know where they
you can
keep
have so
rotating
many.
through. But I think Zach Pickens is still decent too. I know they have him listed as like buried on the depth chart, but I think he's solid enough.
Never mind. You own them, so I'm not going to do that.
I think I'm just gonna stick with Watts. I want to take a running back, but I honestly don't know which one they would go with, and I think it's easier in my mind to just not do that.
See that, but they also pick again right now, like right after this. So
that's true. So maybe they hope that the Saints take a running back since they need one smile, and they don't have to make as hard of a decision. Easy claps.
If the Broncos had more picks, I'd say they'd still be trying to trade up for a running back here.
I could see
possibly, but I think there's so many. There's just enough guys that I think they've already traded up once. They probably wouldn't do it again. The Saints. Who did they take? They took Ted. They're gonna go with Walter Nolan because he's still. I just think BPA. They're like taking defensive linemen or edges. I think Mike Hill is interesting though, still being here. I don't think he's still gonna be here.
I don't either.
I don't like him that much. Well, okay, don't hate him, but I don't think he's still gonna be here. Man, dude, hang on. Who do they have an edge besides Cameron Jordan?
I forget. I looked at it earlier too.
Yeah, I'm gonna look right
Carl Granderson, Isaiah Foskey, Chase Young.
Oh yeah, Chase Young. That's what I was thinking. Yeah. I don't think it stops me, but they gave Chase Young enough money that I'm gonna go with Nolan still.
I like it. Which brings me back to the Bears again.
If you want my input from running back for them, I think that would what would fit with Caleb the best is probably Trevor. And I think it does fit the Gibbs thing. You can make a case for Judkins for sure.
I guess my question, and again, this is a stupid thing to think
about. Is it because of Swift?
Kind of.
That was my only thought. It was like, well, I guess Swift could play that role, and then you could have Judkins as like the power back, and I could see that. I guess
my problem is that Swift doesn't do anything well enough for me to trust him in either role. He's not David Montgomery. He's also not Jahmyr Gibbs. And I'm not saying that Brian Johnson is going to solely rely on having a backfield with a David Montgomery and a Jahmyr Gibbs. It's just the easiest thing to look at is how much success they've had doing that in Detroit. And I don't think that Swift runs the ball effectively enough between the tackles to be like David Montgomery. I think he catches the ball effectively enough to be similar to Gibbs and similar to David Montgomery.
Do you think they think Roach could do that? I know I'm not a Roach guy, but he has
maybe, and that's a weird thing for me because I obviously liked Roach a good amount, more so just because of the fact that he was basically
Book of Horns.
Well, he just had a shot at being the guy. I took him in a lot of fantasy drafts, not necessarily because I liked him as a player, but because they used a 4th round pick on him, and he wasn't competing with anybody. He was competing with like Khalil Herbert and I don't even remember who the other guy was that was there at that point in time, to be honest. Who did they trade to?
Was Treat Cohen still there?
No. Did they trade Herbert to the Bengals? Who did they trade to the Bengals?
Herbert's with the Bengals.
Maybe that's who it was. Maybe,
but
they traded somebody at the deadline.
It was probably Herbert because he is with the Bengals.
Oh, yeah, it was 2025 7th round pick. I thought there was somebody else. It wasn't Cohen. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. But there wasn't anybody really competing for that top spot. And then obviously they brought Swift in, which hurt that more. But Brian Johnson could feel differently about Roach than what Matt Nagy did, or not Matt Nagy.
Hey, Johnson.
Who am I thinking of?
Wait, what?
Who was the coach?
When? Sorry.
Before Ben Johnson. Who got fired for being terrible?
Eberflus?
That's the one. I said Matt Nagy instead of Matt Eberflus.
The guy who can't block manage.
Well, yeah, the guy can't really do anything. But like maybe Eberflus just didn't like Roach and Ben Johnson a little more. I don't know. It's possible.
I think Judkins or Trevion would be good picks. I could even see them.
I could see them going scat just because it's that weird, like, again, it's a scat back. I
wouldn't put out Samson or Caleb either. I mean, I don't like Caleb as much as everybody else. I just talked about that earlier.
Right.
I have no idea what these teams are going to say. Caleb Johnson is very Demont-like.
We're at the point where I think I like Trayvon Henderson as my wide receiver, or running back 3. I know you do too. But to me, almost anybody in this range, from even honestly Martinez up, is pretty much in a situation where it's just going to come down to flavors of what teams are looking for. Now, I will say that there's, like, I would take Henderson over other people that do similar, like, I would take Henderson over Jaden Blue probably in every scenario.
Yeah.
I would probably take Henderson over Devin Neal in, like, every scenario.
What you're saying is there's probably going to be some surprises of, like, oh my god, like...
Right. I'm saying Jaden Blue
RJ Harvey's going...
Right. RJ Harvey could go before Caleb Johnson. Jaden Blue could go before Dylan Sampson. And frankly, I think if you're taking Jaden Blue, you probably just want Dylan Sampson anyway. But there's a world where something like that happens. David Martinez, it could go higher than people think because he's probably the best power back other than Scat.
Yeah, I mean, he might be Rabel's guy in round 3 if he makes it.
Right. So
I can see that.
It's just tough for me to identify that. And maybe Damian Martinez is somebody that the Bears really like too, for all I know. He could be a Demont type guy. I don't think he's the same kind of player exactly, but it could happen.
Yeah. I don't think you could really go wrong. I think any of those top 4 running backs have a really good chance to go here. Truthfully.
My gut says they go Judkins. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But I'm going to do it.
I like that. Makes sense to me. Alright, so Titans, they just moved back.
Yep. Golden and Carter.
Yeah, Golden Carter. They're going to take Swisher. I think they need that alpha linebacker, and I think this is around the spot where Swisher's probably going to be going, if I had to guess. So, gives them an awesome 3 picks.
I like it. Yeah, I mean, we talked about it. The reason why they traded back from 1 was to add more slots to beef up their roster. And yes, they didn't take a quarterback. Yes, they're probably just going to be bad this year with Will Levis. They have 2 firsts next year that are probably going to be good. And they just added 3 guys at positions of need that I think are tremendous players. So
3 starters.
Yeah. 3 plug-and-play day 1 starters that you probably don't need to worry too much about. Who did I give the Niners? Kenneth Grant last time. Okay, so I guess I'm not going to give them T.J. Sanders then.
They need to keep on so bad that I think it wouldn't be impossible.
It would be horrible. Did they go Hairston?
I can see that.
Ravel was, what, 6'2" and some change?
Imagine they just go Cam Steadman here. White running back.
Imagine. Low key, actually,
it would be a nasty fit.
They could take Trayvon Henderson. That would be a gross fit too.
I'd hate it for fantasy unless they actually got rid of CMC soonish, but
I would too. But they
as soon
also
as
just
Trayvon
moved
was a
on
guy
from Jordan Mason.
Yeah. No, I mean I think they could definitely do it.
They shouldn't though, so I'm not going to.
Yeah, they're going to draft someone around 6. It's going to be awesome.
Yep, they're taking Hairston.
especially in this class.
They're taking Anderson for me.
I like that. Cowboys with Booker. They traded back.
They got to go running back, right?
I would have definitely given them Judkins. They could do Henderson. They just like their Ohio State running backs. He's just best left.
They also like their Kansas State running backs.
Yeah. I could see them liking A.O. Manor. I think you gave that to them last week.
Am I making that up? Deuce Vaughn went to Kansas State, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I think Kansas State, not Kansas, but yes.
Yeah, that's what I said.
They're going to take, they're not going to take running back. They're going to take Michael Williams. I think it's just too much of a fall, and, like, they need another edge after losing Dexter Lawrence. Haha, just kidding. DeMarcus Lawrence. I didn't do it this time. I was going to do Scorton, and then I realized Michael's on the board. It's like, man, I think he's going to go before this. And
could go Landon Jackson, though, too, just because it's Jerry, you know?
Yeah. But they have picks 76 and 85 from the Broncos.
Yep.
There's going to be, I mean, with all these guys left, I mean, they probably feel okay about Javonte and Miles. They don't feel good, but better than they had last year, at least. But then there's going to be a Giddens, Devin Neal, Martinez we just talked about. Maybe Caleb Johnson falls that far. You know, there's going to be some guys that you take someone like Michael if he.
Yep.
And it's a position need.
I like it. Colts got Campbell in the first. I think I got to go Landon. Actually, he tested well. I think he tested better than Scorton did.
I think so. I don't know that Scorton did everything, but yeah.
He's also 6 foot. He's 6'7".
Oh, dude, I don't know what his combine weigh-ins were, but he's a string bean, dude. He's lengthy. He's very lengthy. Long arms. He kind of looks weird. Not to be mean.
That's a messed up thing to say about somebody that has a condition. He has alopecia. He looks weird. That's kind of.
Well, besides the whole face
that's a
thing
messed
going
up thing
on,
to say.
his body style looks a little.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again.
It's a little off-putting, man.
Landon Jackson looks like, what the hell is his name? Who's the Bird Up guy?
Who?
Bird Up.
Bird Up. This must be a Zoomy thing.
No.
Eric Andre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He looks like Eric Andre doing a skit.
That.
I don't know why. Anyway, I'm just gonna do it.
Yeah. I think it's a good fit. I like that. A lot. Falcons, they actually went defense, but Mike Green, they took an edge. I don't think Besh fits because they have what they have with London. I don't think that fits. A.O. Manor, kind of. I don't know that they go wide receiver. I know it says it's their biggest need. I like
don't know if
Mooney
they have
enough.
to. I think if they wanted to, it would be.
If someone fell,
Malik, because
I
of
still
the
like
fact that
Royals.
He's a great run blocking wide receiver, which is a very
true
Rams wide receiver trait. I don't think that he is the same kind of player as a Rams wide receiver, but I think that he.
Don't they need to fit? Not to cut you off. They lost Grady Jarrett. Why wouldn't T.J. Sanders just be an awesome pick here?
Because PFF says
they
it's not a
didn't
need.
sign anybody, right?
Obviously, they don't need it. PFF says it's not a
T.J.
need.
Sanders. T.J. Sanders is the pick.
They got Ruko. They got Rook. David on your mother and Morgan Fox.
They're taking T.J. Sanders. They're going to go defense back to back
for the first time in
because they need it.
a trillion years. They have apparently only been scouting and meeting with and all that kind of stuff defensive players. So Gray Zabel was the first round pick. I think they go cornerback. And I think they would go Ravel. He fits kind of with what they like. In the taller, I know he didn't.
He's a freak, dude.
Tall as
I like Revel. I just don't. I don't like. He's a little risky for first round.
Right.
That's the only thing that, like, for
if he wasn't
me,
coming off the injury and had gotten to play out that full season, I think he would have been a lock for the first round. He looked really, really good at the beginning of the season, but then you tear your ACL and everything just kind of disappears.
You never know.
So
yeah. But second round, I think it's fine.
Yeah.
I think he has way enough talent to make that pick pay off. I'm guessing you lock that in.
Yep, done.
Dolphins took Membu. It's a great pick for them. They need a defensive line so freaking bad. I'm giving them one, no matter what.
Yeah, but dude, Ayamanor in that scheme, run blocking.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be nice, but man, I just.
Who did they just add? What run blocking wide receiver? Oh, they got a Westbrook Akine. Having both of those guys run blocking as wide receivers would be disgusting.
It'd be kind of nasty, actually. Which one of these guys? Yes. This is probably going to be a little bit of this. I kind of like Omar Norman Lott for the. I know Tyleek.
Homer.
Probably the best available.
Homer.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that. But out of the top 4 guys that would possibly go here, he's the best pass rusher from the defensive line by far, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Alfred Collins just feels like a Dolphin, though.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think you're wrong. I don't think they go Turner for sure. I've already rolled that out.
I think Omar Norman Lott is the closest thing that they have at this point to a Christian Wilkins replacement.
That's probably why in my head it makes sense.
So
I think
I don't hate that.
Collins scored way better at PFF, but also Norman Lott didn't play that much. They rotated their defensive linemen insane. And they had so many guys that on their defensive line that are just like 4 or 5 star prospects, like guys that are younger who aren't coming out. So Lott did not play a ton of snaps, which is, you could say, is a knock, but I mean,
Homer.
Whatever. I think if you're looking at just true pass rushing interior defensive line, I think he's behind Mason Graham and Harmon, and I don't know if anybody else that I would put ahead of him in terms of just that.
And I really love that for you, but the phone's ringing if you want to pick it up.
I'm always picking it up.
The Broncos want TreVeyon Henderson.
They don't want to make sure that the Bengals don't snag him or something?
Correct. Because the Bengals, Chase Young. Chase Brown is not going to stop me from taking a running back here.
True. And someone could also still trade up to snag him, like the Chargers or something.
Yep. Broncos only have to move 3 picks. It's not going to be a huge move. So maybe it's a pick swap of...
As the Broncos fan who's not going to have any actual input on this, but is going to give input anyways, even though it's not his pick. I know we've already given up a future 2. I kind of think the Broncos are like thinking they have Bo Nix on a rookie contract.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they're still paying for us, but this is the last year, and we've already paid most of it on like the smaller half of it. I think they are recognizing this. And it sounds crazy with how bad they've been, but I think they're kind of like, this is our window to try to get a ring before Bo Nix is going to be expensive. Obviously, if he keeps doing what he did and getting even better than that, like, I expect him to be the guy. So I expect him in 4 years to
be commanding a lot more money. Yeah.
And I think he's going to take, this is obviously like,
he's probably going to take a team-friendly deal.
He's going to take it. Yeah,
so forth,
he's not that guy. That's
a lot more.
Correct, but this is your window. So,
right.
Do you want to give up another future pick? It's kind of like, but at the same time, like I would be okay giving up. Like, I would want to try to keep 122. So if they could give up one of the 190 picks and like a future,
4?
I'm gonna throw something out here.
Maybe that's too much, or
that they move up from 51 to 48 and also throw in JFM.
Ooh. Play D-line for them? For the Dolphins?
Yep.
But they want to get rid of JFM. I mean, the whole paying him thing kind of sucks, but then it's going to put us in a situation where you need to...
You probably should then add something at some point, but you have Roach, you have...
Do the Dolphins have to give us something else on top?
Probably.
Because I think I value JFM too much to do that.
They give you 155 back, Smile.
I think I would be good with that. Yeah. I think I definitely want something back because I do like JFM, and he's still under contract for technically. Is it one more year after this? I'd have to look. I don't know. I don't think it's this is last year, but I think he just wants. I think more than likely they'll probably find a way to give him a little bit of a pay raise with some incentives, but
I do too. But I think he wants like a lot more money. He's a free agent after this year.
Okay, then that makes him a little less valuable. So I still think if we're giving JFM in 51, I think for 48, I think I'd want something back. Whether it's 155 or whether it's like a future 5 or 6, I think something like that. Just to get something else back, because I think he's worth more than moving up. You know.
Yeah.
Especially, it's not the first round. If it was the first round moving up 3 spots, like, yes, you can make that. But I would want one of those picks back to maybe take, like, a defensive lineman.
Yep.
That, you know. So, I think I'm cool with that.
I'll give you 155, because that splits the gap between 122 and 191.
I like that. So, as the Dolphins, I also accept this trade, obviously.
Let's see if PFF does it. Cool. All right, yep, and you're getting your guy, Trayvon Henderson.
Oh, this draft would be the best. I would.
I know that you'd be upset. I know that you'd be upset losing out on JFM. Like during this process,
I would, but it'd be worth.
But getting Warren and Henderson would make it so worth it for you. It's unbelievable, especially because again, I've said again.
You got JFM
37
for free,
times in the last 2 days.
We got JFM for free.
Yeah, basically.
It was a pick swap that we ended up trading down and got Vele in round 7.
Yeah.
we ended up getting a better player probably than we would have. Actually, Sean Payton said that they were probably going to take Vele in the 6th round. So
right.
Which I don't know if that's true. It could just be him being like, oh, we were going to do that anyway, so we got Franklin Meyer for free. But he made some comment about, well, we made the trade but got the guy we were taking anyway, so didn't matter.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many defensive linemen still sitting in the later rounds of this draft. You could take JJ now comfortably in a little while.
Yeah.
One of these top guys probably isn't there at your next pick, but he
Peebles,
could be because you traded your 3rd away. But Peebles, Caldwell, JJ Riley Mills, Tonka.
Yeah. For sure.
Junior Tafuna, that's definitely a Broncos defensive tackle.
Even like Uwazurike is on his last year now, and he could step up too. I mean, he looked good in some playing action last year when we rotated him, and he's still kind of coming back and getting into playing for him. So
yeah, it's worth a gamble on him for sure.
In worst case, I'm sure there's some guys in free agency that we could even add to just fill in for this year. I have to look, but yeah. All right, well, you're on the clock now with the good old Bungles.
Yeah, and I think I'm going back-to-back defensive lineman here and doing entirely just kidding. How do I not take Scorton? I know why. I'm not taking Scorton because PFF doesn't identify that as a need.
Even if Henderson stays, I still need him.
Even if Henderson stays, yes. Scorton is an upgrade immediately over Joseph Osai.
Yep.
If they move on from Hendrickson, they definitely need Scorton. If they don't move on from Hendrickson, they still need Scorton anyway.
Adding Harmon and Scorton would be pretty nasty for them. It would be a huge upgrade. I like that a lot.
That puts you on the clock for 3 picks in a row, with 2 of them being
I guess
Seahawks.
Seattle twice. Cool. The team that's really hard to predict. They pick.
Colson
Loveland went round 1. I think they
look, I'm on the train of Tate Ratledge. I like him as a guy, and I know they don't usually take interior guys, but they don't take him in the first round. I can see Kubiak being like, look, if we want to run this offense, run the ball, we need interior guys. And Tate Ratledge just fits the bill of that zone blocking offensive guard. He's starting day one starter. And they just want to make sure that the Dolphins don't pick him because the Dolphins need a badly. So they're going to go and take him here.
He also fits the Seahawks mold for what they like their wide receiver or offensive lineman to look like. Joey Hunt.
What, white?
Joey Hunt and Tate Ratledge.
Yeah, hey, that is true.
Actually. White with the flowing locks.
The freaking mullet.
Joey Hunt didn't have much of a mullet, but Tate Ratledge definitely
does. Yeah, dude, he's got an awesome mullet, dude. Freaking sick, I'm not gonna lie.
Hell yeah.
All right, Dolphins. They took Membu. They now have John Franklin Myers, who could play kind of like the edge for them. I need to go back to the depth chart. I know they don't have like anybody on the interior still. I don't think that stops them from taking one of these guys that I was just talking about. I would have honestly thought about Tate Rapp. So even though we just took Membu, I think they could use a guard. Benito Jones. So Zach Styler's a fine starter on right defensive end. Then John Franklin Myers would be starting at left defensive end. They need a nose tackle. So actually, since they need a nose tackle, I'm not going to go Alfred, or I'm not going to go Omar anymore. I'm going to go with Alfred Collins because I think he is the easier slot in at nose tackle. And we talked about how he does feel like a Dolphin. And I think those three guys, Styler, Collins, and John Franklin Myers, that would change their defensive line pretty quickly.
Yep. I like it.
And back with Seattle, who obviously they just got Ratledge and Loveland first round. It'd be hilarious if they just took Jared Wilson and played him at center. But
that would be funny.
Obviously.
That'd be really funny, actually. They should go edge, though. I think.
But I'm still kind of thinking wide receiver is an option. I didn't take it in the first round. I know I took
fair. That's fair.
But I think it's an option. I don't know that I'm going to do it, but it was something that went through my mind. Swinson, I don't know if you just said his name, but he seems like a Seahawks player.
I didn't. I said Tui, actually.
Oh, okay. I'm going to scroll down a little bit and go off of, because they tend to kind of just take guys that they like. They don't really stick to the consensus for, like, I can see them going with like a Jordan Burch here or something at edge. I need to look at their depth chart. Which picks it up. Like there's a few ways that they could go. I guess they probably wouldn't go wide receiver. Loveland in that way. I think if somebody fell here that they liked a lot, there's nobody that I'm like dying for. Leonard Williams, not really an inside linebacker I'm dying for, else I would probably do that. Josh Jobe. Steve Goodenough, corner 3. You know what? I'm gonna give them I could see any of these next 3 corners. I was immediately gonna move, but they like the lengthy guys, and Porter is that, and I think the NFL really likes him. He seems like a Seahawks, so I'm gonna go with Porter. I thought about Thomas too, but I think Porter really fits, and I don't think they're paying Josh Jobe anything crazy, right?
I don't think so.
I think he's just by default like they're 2. I think it'd be better like if he was a 4. Reek and Devin Witherspoon.
1 year, $2 million contract.
Yeah. Darian Porter it is.
I like it. The Buccaneers took Barron in the first. Do they just future-proof for Mike Evans leaving and take Yamanor? I know he's not the same size, but he plays bigger than he is.
I could see it. It's
they don't need to. They took J-Mac last year. Never mind.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, he's obviously not even close to Mike Evans, but yeah, they have 3 guys. It'd be hard. I don't think they would take
Yeah, they should.
Two.
That.
I think they still are looking at edge with Swinson and Princely and JT and Sawyer. I think there's guys there that would really help them.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just trying to figure out which one I like better.
Swinson, I think, is gonna probably be the guy that goes next.
It could be Princely.
I think it's Princely or Swinson, like if I had to guess, over the two Ohio State guys.
I think it depends on the team, but yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean here.
Oh yeah.
Specifically here, yeah. I think Swinson's a little more risky because he hasn't played as much as a full-time starter until this year. I think Princely's been snaps.
The Buccaneers are kind of also in a window right now too, with Baker under contract.
Yeah.
I like Princely, I think, a little bit more than Swinson personally.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I think he's probably a little more ready than Swinson. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that.
I like that.
If nothing else, he gives you rotational depth because Hassan Reddick, you never know what you're getting out of him.
Yeah.
Diaby, I think, played well enough last year.
Yeah.
But I think just adding a extra person to compete with Reddick. I don't think the contract that he got either was crazy, so.
No, it wasn't. I hate picking for the Packers, and I have to do it again. I was totally going to give them A.O. Manor here because blocking wide receiver, but let's give them Jordy Nelson 2.0 and Jack Besh.
Not Restrepo?
I like that better. No. I like Besh because they kind of have like 3 guys that can play the slot. I know Besh can play the slot too, but he is also, I think, a really good Z. Go up and get it type of wide receiver. So.
Yep, I like it.
Besh it is.
Man.
They got to take Alec, right? All that blocking.
I'm thinking
all
about
that running.
I'm thinking about it, but I'm thinking.
But they got to take Scathaboo too, or is Najee just too good?
Najee's just too good, dude.
Caleb Johnson, I could see. Oh, I guess he. Tyleek as well. There's a lot of things. I mean, edge. Both those Ohio State guys.
That's.
Tight end is still there. I mean, there's tight ends here that haven't been taken. Arroyo, Kiefer, Mason Taylor.
Almost anything at this point to me is on the board.
So many. Yeah. I mean, I just named 10 guys.
And I mean, just going down the list, I think they could take Ayamanor, Tyleek, Turner. I wouldn't love Swinson, but they could. Scattaboo, JT. I don't think they would take Restrepo because I think that he's too similar to Ladd. They could take Sawyer. They could take Arroyo. I think because I went defense in the first, I don't want to go defense in the second. I really was thinking about it. I was going to go JT Tuimalau to go against Tuli Tuipulotu.
Your phone is ringing.
My phone?
Actually, no, it's not. Shit. I don't have them. Never mind. It's not ringing.
Oh.
Sorry.
Well, who was the phone that was ringing?
Doesn't matter. I don't think you would agree.
Well, I want to. Okay, let's just talk it out. We don't have to do it, but let me hear.
Commanders.
Ooh, for what? Edge.
Nope. Well, I
oh
like
no, because they took Pearson the first, right? Right.
Yep. Somebody that their GM I think would like based upon what he was at before, and it's something that I think they low key need. That
is it on their needs? Receiver.
It is on their needs, actually. I didn't even know that, but that's not what I'm thinking.
Oh.
Think about
running back.
It might be silly. It might be, but I think that they're also obviously in a window, and I think it would upgrade their running game quite a bit.
You think they take?
I I like Scatterboo. I mean, for them,
Ooh.
I think the way that Cliff could use him, I think the way that Dan Campbell wants to run the crap out of the ball, the way that their GM likes white running backs, obviously. Dan Quinn, sorry, I just can't get my names right ever. The other white Dan. But yeah, that was just kind of my thought. Because I was sitting here, I was like, well, the Bills could take a running back. The Texans could take a running back. I think the Ravens could even take a running back. Like maybe they just want to hop. I mean, the Chargers could take ones, and they're just like, look, like Cam is that is the running back we've been waiting to get, and we're getting so close. We don't want to get sniped here. I don't think it would cost a lot. The Chargers are sitting here. We just talked about 9,000 players they could take, so they're probably like, let's just move back, get some value, and we could still get one. We're gonna have a choice still.
All right,
so that was kind of my thought process.
Now the problem is the Commanders do not have a bunch of picks because
that is what I didn't look at. And you're right. That does. Yeah, that is fair, and I didn't even look at that. I was just kind of trying to look at teams quickly before you made the pick because I was trying to figure it. Because
61 for 55 in a pick swap next year, where the Commanders give up their 3 for the Chargers 4.
So the Chargers give their 4, the the Commanders give their 3 to move up, and then yeah, I mean, I think that's probably enough.
I think it's fair.
If you wanted to like really min-max it, like
the Chargers could probably send them back a 22.55 this year.
Maybe. I mean, I don't even. For the sake of this just being a mock draft, I think the idea of the Commanders trading up, like maybe they just included a player or something that they're just like, this guy for us is like kind of on the fence of making the team, or we don't want to pay him or something. I don't have someone on top of my head. I kind of Robinson. I didn't see anything. That would be funny, actually.
Yeah, you would love that because then he would be able to compete with the worst version of himself in Najee Harris in your mind.
I could see them just sending Chris Rodriguez, big on power back.
Yep.
But yeah.
Mike Sanders still?
If we're down, yeah. If Commanders wouldn't send him for that, they wouldn't send him straight up.
I know. Yeah, it's close enough. I'm just gonna do it.
But these are your 2 teams,
Done.
so this
Too
is
late.
What you said. Okay.
Cam Scataboom. Oh my God! Wait, did he play at Arizona State with Jaden Daniels too?
Ooh, I think. I don't know. Actually, that was so long ago. I don't think so.
Hold on.
If it did, it was 1 year, but I don't know. That is a thing to think about. I didn't think about.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either, but that would have been fun.
Scatterboo did Scatterboo only play 2 years in actual, like, was he JUCO before?
I didn't think so. I thought he started there. I gotta look now. So I didn't. Oh, Sacramento State. Yeah, that's right. 2021, Sacramento State.
Either way, it's still a cool connection, even though they didn't play together. They did in my mind. So
yeah, I mean there was a lot of things there.
You're up.
Buffalo took Amos. But they still need defensive line, right? Don't they still need it? It's not their.
They do. They could. They also could use edge.
Correct. I know they got Bosa.
Well, yeah. So why don't they just take second Bosa?
Yeah, that's true.
They got Daquan Jones and Ed Oliver. I know that they like Greg Rousseau a good amount. They also have Ogunjobi and Hogt, who are suspended until All Kingdom Come.
Norman Lott feels like a good pass rushing interior guy.
Yeah.
Tyleek seems like a good fit too. In the middle, if you go defensive.
Matt Milano's not getting any younger either. I could see them wanting to grab like Chris Paul.
Yeah, if there was a guy, I just think it's, for me, it's too early.
I agree, but again, you're talking about their next pick is. Oh wait, no, they have another pick coming up. Never mind.
Yeah, 62. There, I know that's not far away, but it just.
It's far enough away that I don't think you need to do it. There's enough other guys here that are probably a bigger need.
Yeah. I'm a little lower on Tyleek. I think I'm gonna go with Norman Lott. I think the way that he is used is a lot of the ways that McDermott likes to use his defensive line. Like they really like just like really switch guys in. I think Norman Lott really thrives in that in that style of attacking. He could start day one as like the third down rush lineman. So.
All right, so that brings us to the Panthers, who took Shamar Stewart in the first, and they take Shamar Turner in the second.
Yes.
I think they should go wide receiver here.
Yeah. I also don't hate corner if they liked Thomas.
Yeah.
Or Morrison. I don't hate it because I don't really think they have a lot next to the one.
Yeah.
Well, not to sway you, but that was my first thought.
They don't need to. Horn's the second highest paid cornerback in the league.
Sure.
He should be able to lock down both sides of the field.
Do you think they would like... I know they have your boy, Hook'em Horns, Jatavius Sanders, I think that's his name?
Jatavion.
I knew it was.
And Tommy Tremble.
I could hear, okay, whatever. I could see them liking a tight end here, too.
Jatavion
Sanders
is the future.
Doesn't stop me from taking a tight end. I like three tight ends that are left over him.
I think he stops them from taking him because he is the GOAT. He had a decent,
I can see them going deeper.
He had a decent end of the year. He had good chemistry with Bryce Young.
But like he can't play in line, and I don't want to go on a rant on him. I don't think he's a good enough route runner to just be a split out tight end. He's just okay. Maybe he could eventually be. I'm not saying he's gonna be bad. I think he did okay. But
I was probably taking an offensive threat for them. I think I'm taking a wide receiver, but the two things I'm between are they a run heavy enough team that I think Yamamura would be the best fit there? Because I think that Restrepo learning from Adam Thielen for a year would be sick.
Give Bryce someone that can get some separation, because honestly, the worst thing about Bryce is, like, the first couple of years at least, is he's struggled a little bit with throwing guys open.
Yep.
But in which at Bama they schemed some guys open for him a lot, so it was easier for him. So guys that could get separation, and guess who cannot get separation? Like, I loved Leggett in his season last year or 2 years ago in college, but he did not get any separation. The guy that they just gave to the Cowboys, I can't think of his name, last year, could not get any separation. Speedy guy, Mingo. Guess who can get separation as an old man? Thielen. Guess who was his favorite wide receiver?
Yep.
So I think
done.
That makes a lot of sense. Houston, Kelvin Banks is going to play on the offensive line somewhere. They still need a wide receiver, I think.
They still need offensive line.
They need a lot of offensive line. That is correct. There's nobody that I'm like dying for. I think Nursery could make sense. I think Donovan Jackson could make sense.
I think I like Donovan Jackson a lot for them there, personally.
I like Imbo, or I guess it's actually just Bo, his last name, more than others. I think I would not hate that. Jonah, Sayavaini,
something like that. Cameron Williams.
I'd want him to play guard. I'm kind of out on Cam Williams. I think he's a lazy big boy.
Yeah, but they get to play him next to Kelvin Banks.
Sure, that makes sense, but I don't like it. I think he's worse Dawan Jones, just not as big, but I think similar. Worse, he's just worse. But
that's fair.
Anyways.
But they're both horrible, so.
Well, one is better. I also I gotta go to that truck before I talk
what I was doing. I forgot to.
I keep forgetting. I have not been using depth charts for this week.
They could use a DT.
I was
Tim
thinking
Settle and
about
Sheldon
edge,
Rankins
but they
don't.
just paid Hunter, and they have Will Anderson, so that's not happening. That's what I was forgetting. They just paid Daniel Hunter.
Yep.
Crazy.
And they brought Derek Barnett back too.
Yeah.
Nothing that
They
stops
could
you.
use. No, it doesn't. They could use defensive tackle for sure. There's some guys here. I still think like low key use running back, and I like Samson for them, but I think Pearson makes him good enough to where you probably don't.
I think they like Jordan a good amount too. I know he was a 6th-round pick last year, but
yeah, I think they like him as like a scat back maybe, like a special team scat back. I'm not sure they want him to be like their starter.
oh well, no, but just as a depth piece.
But yeah, I was just thinking as like of the future, like when Mixon leaves next year or whatever, if they don't want to pay him. But Neal, I actually really like them too. Forgot about him because they have him so low. I won't lie. I think it's early for Jared Wilson. I think PFF has him. I think he's better than Jarrett Patterson at center right away. I'm not gonna lie. I think he starts over Jarrett Patterson.
Mm-hmm.
Like actually, I really do think that. I think Jared Wilson is more of a 3rd-round pick though. That's why I don't love it. I know we're close to the 3rd round. I think it would be a reach, but I have him as like a 3rd-round guy. I think a lot of people probably have him as a day 3 guy, but I think he's similar to Booker and where he's going to be a good starter. He might not be like top 5 center in the league, but he's going to be a good starter for you for at least the 4 years that you have him. Man, I just paid Dingley a buttload of money last year. Apparently they got Ronald Darby. They took Tremont Smith from us, who's going to be a special teams guy. I think they could go for him, but they're using Petrie as a no fullback. I'm going to circle all the way back, I think. I guess Banks. Are they going to use him at guard or are they going to use him at tackle? Cam Robinson's left tackle. Blake Fisher played horribly last year, but I think they're going to give him another chance. Man, he was bad.
Yep.
Bad. Juice Scruggs I've never liked. No offense.
No,
They reached on him. I think they spent a high enough pick where they probably want to give him another chance this year.
He should have been a 4th-round pick.
Titus Hat. Well, yeah, I'm just thinking, like, I guess if Banks plays left guard, Donovan Jackson, I guess they could let him battle it out with Scruggs.
I'm saying I think that Banks could play
he could
left
play tackle,
guard, right tackle.
Correct.
And be an upgrade on any of those guys. So I think that
probably
you can take any of the offensive linemen at this point.
Just whatever you like best.
Yeah, and put them wherever you want to put them.
I'll go Jackson. I think he kind of stuck out to me too. I was just trying to think of
other stuff
where they would fit, like if I was thinking about them, but
yeah,
I think that makes sense. They have enough holes there where you just fit 5 best in.
Giggity.
Oh, look who the Ravens are going to get here, probably.
No, I'm not doing it.
Actually, there's a couple things I can see.
They got DeAndre Hopkins. They don't need another wide receiver anymore.
Sure. Even though one of them fit with their style really well.
Nope.
Sitting here.
Doesn't matter.
Like so well.
Nope.
So well.
Nope. They got Jalen Walker in the
first.
Who
needs Rashad Bateman and you just...
Yeah. They need to reevaluate their life decisions.
Jalen Milroe. Him and Lamar Jackson.
I kind of like that, actually.
There's your back. I'm sure you do.
I think I gave him a running back. Last week.
While we're talking about that, do we think there is any shot of someone trading up to this round 2 for Will Howard or for Milroe?
No.
Okay. Just wanted to throw it out there. Not someone that's in the 2nd round, but obviously
maybe
3rd or 4th round.
Maybe, but what
I don't think I would
teams
do
be
it, but
looking
I
to
just
do that haven't already addressed the quarterback position?
I mean, I don't think the Titans should. I think they're going to try to get one next year.
I guess the Steelers.
Yeah, but one of those guys, I would be so mad. I was you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you got to think about it. I mean, like, would the Raiders go get Will Howard because Kelly? Like, did they love him that much?
What if the Eagles traded up here for Jalen Milroe?
Jesus Christ. They just couldn't do it. Hurts would be. He'd be pissed. He'd be so pissed.
That'd be so funny, dude.
It would be funny. He got Jalen, or he's gonna get Jalen Hurts himself.
Does Jalen Walker stop you from taking Braden Swinson?
Taking an edge, because I think they need to play him at edge. I mean, I know you're gonna. He could be that like inside guy for.
No, I'm saying they have Trenton Simpson and Roquan Smith inside, and I think that those are solid.
Sorry, I was thinking about Eagles still. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think it does. No, I think corner or edge should probably still be in play. Wide receiver, obviously.
Actually,
but,
cornerback, I could see them liking Thomas a lot. He feels like a Ravens type player.
Yeah.
Thomas or Morrison, honestly, but Thomas feels like more Marlon Humphrey to me.
Yeah, kinda.
Not exactly. He's less press man.
Kinda. Morrison's a better run defender. I think that's the only thing.
Yeah.
At least from what I remember. But I still don't hate it. I think it's a toss-up. That's like the only thing against it is I think maybe Morrison's a better run defender, but he's also like, is he going to come back? Like,
right.
I think he will, but I don't know. I'm not the one. I'm not the doctor, so I didn't get the medical history reports and stuff, so I'm not sure. Maybe they just take T. Ferg and just go like ultimate tight end weapons.
I thought about that.
Over Wayo.
I'd be really mad if they did it, though. I also thought about just going DT because they lost, what's his face to retirement? Michael Pierce.
Oh, yeah.
They could use a nose tackle. They have Travis Jones right now, but like Tyleek in the middle of the defense feels good to me.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that. I talked myself into it.
Yeah, I like that. Lions took Darius Alexander. Oh, dude. Well.
Jack Sawyer.
There's two. Yeah, I know. I think A.O. Manor is at least somewhat.
I know. We can talk about it.
He's a kneecap biter. He is. That's the type of wide receiver he is. But they need another edge. Pretty badly, still, in my opinion.
They need another edge very badly, in my opinion.
I'm gonna go Sawyer, but A.O. Manor is tempting. But I am gonna go Sawyer. I think it's the right pick.
Well.
Yeah. Took Will Johnson.
I have to.
They traded back
I really.
A lot of these options.
I want you to know that if I check the Chargers draft picks and they had less than like 6 draft picks, I was going to have the Lions trade back up and just take back to back.
Yeah.
But they have so many shots at this point, and they have less holes on their roster than the draft picks, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, they'd probably have to trade for a future pick. If like trade down to round 3 and then gain a pick next year.
Right.
Like that would be the only way, I think.
Right. And I just don't think they want to take those shots later on. I think they'd rather... If he's here again, this is a guy that we talked about them taking back when we traded the pick. From 55, so I think I'm just going to do it. Again, we could be talking about JT, we could be talking about Swinson, we could be talking about
I was about to say, which one
Arroyo.
are you talking about?
Amanor. Yeah. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
Amos,
I think
Norman Law.
tight end could be an option for them, but
I do too. I could see it, but Honestly, if they wanted to play Yamanor as a small tight end, they could also do that.
Yeah.
Play him in line.
Agree.
I wouldn't love it, but they could.
This is tough for me, I'm not gonna lie. I kind of want to do something a little spicy here. I'm not gonna take Chris Paul. I like the idea, and you pair him with Amos. I feel like we might have done that at some point. The team, it just sparked something in my brain. Paired them together.
I don't know.
It could have been the Bills with their needs, but who knows? I did this last week, I think, though, or last time we did. Maybe I shouldn't. I was thinking, I don't know. I love Jalen Royals for them. But I don't know that I'm going to do it. I think I've done it before. Maybe something else. I also was thinking about just going running back, and I think you did this last week. It's kind of a spicy thing, because it's like they have James Cook with the whole, like, are we going to pay him? Right. Yada, yada, yada. What's his name? Last year actually looked pretty good for them as a backup. I can't think of his name.
Ty Johnson.
What was it? No.
Davis.
Well, yeah, Davis. I think that's what it's silly that's stopping me, but I think that's what's going to stop me. I think they're probably going to figure it out with James Cook.
That's fair.
But Samson and Caleb Johnson are both interesting for me here for them. I think they still go edge. There's a lot of good edges.
Mm-hmm.
Who do they have? Let's see. You have it pulled up. Well, you did have it.
They have Bosa and Rousseau, Epinesa, and that Michael Hope dude who's suspended.
Bosa was just a 1-year deal, right? Or was it 2?
1 year, I think.
Okay. We're going to go edge. The question is it JT or Swinson, I think?
Or is it Jared Ivey to keep him paired up with Trey Amos?
Possibly, but Ivey's a little more of, in my opinion, a DN for 3-4, so he'd play on the line.
Just kidding, it was a joke.
You can't be kidding. Everything that comes out of your mouth is true.
Well,
I'm gonna give him. I'd talk myself up. I'm gonna give him JT.
Yep, that's the one I clicked on.
Give him JT.
Chiefs took Josh Simmons in first.
Oh, I know what they should do here.
They should take Shamar Turner. I think. Actually, they should take running back. Caleb Johnson and Dylan Sampson.
Yeah.
Good there.
Yeah. I can see that for sure.
But they're not going to. They like Pacheco way too much for somebody who's not a huge difference maker.
Yeah, I also don't hate how the defensive linemen are going to look, though, in the next pick. So, like, I could see it. I mean, but you said the same thing about running back, you know. There's going to be a guy there. So, yeah.
Right. I think I like Shamar Turner here. There's a bigger drop to me after Turner.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Compared to what I think running back's going to look like at their next pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Shamar Turner.
I like it. And the Eagles are going to take Benjamin. They lost Big Play Slay, and they're going to have another good corner.
Do they need to, though?
Or Azrae Thomas. Do they need to? No, but, like, what do they need to do? Like, you could say maybe they go edge with Swinson. That was my first thought. But,
that was my thought, too.
But
I also think that Goddard is a potential cap casualty.
Correct. But it's hard for me to... I guess that is true. Who else do they have?
Grant Calcaterra, Harrison Bryant, Kylan Granson, Nick Muse, Cameron Latu, and E.J. Jenkins.
I thought they had a better backup. Oh, that's probably when they had freaking Alberto from us for like that 1 year. You know what? I think you might have talked me out of it, which I don't like. You did, but I think it does make sense. But are they going to add a wide receiver any type? First 2 picks? It's not very Eagles-like.
No, but it's not.
But if I think about it like that, then they're going to go edge. They're not going to go corner.
Yep. Jalen Hunt is going to be their starting outside linebacker right now, opposite Nolan Smith. They have Bryce Huff in rotation. They have Aziza in rotation. Josh Uche they picked up. But I have a hard time thinking if Braden Swinson's on the board right now that they're not taking him. If they're drafting defense. The reason why I hesitate to say cornerback is because they have Cooper Brown and they have Quinion Mitchell. And yes, that leaves Keely Ringo as still a starter for him. Or Adoree Jackson, who's
it was more so me thinking, like, what's best player available that's the Eagles are just going to get. And for me, it's probably one of those corners. That's probably Morrison, but I think Swinson's close, so I don't hate that at all.
Or I think I could Josiah Stewart as a slightly undersized edge rusher from Michigan to replace their newly retired.
I was literally just about. It was coming out of my mouth. I was going to say, or they're going to take Josiah Stewart. Not for all those same reasons that you just listed, but I was going to make my own.
Brandon Graham replacement, baby.
Something about Swinson, I feel like they don't want. I don't know why. It just doesn't feel right to me. I'm going to go Stewart.
Let's go.
That's Stewart. Boomsky's in the chat. We lost the game. Walker.
I like it. Beautiful.
Yep.
First time we did trades, I think worked out fairly well too, which is nice.
We didn't do anything crazy. Yeah.
Nothing super wild. Spice it up a little bit. Jackson Dart going 7 is probably potentially the worst pick in the draft.
Hey man, I mean there's hype about it. Whether it's going to be true or not, who knows?
It's true. Let's do the same thing real quick before we wrap up. It's almost 10, so you've almost been at this for 3 hours. But you go back through and pick the 1 or 2 picks that you want to highlight that you didn't make, and then I'll do the same in the inverse.
Pull it back. Borrows for the 4 results. Okay. Yeah. I'll do 1 from each round, I guess. Okay. We'll do round 2 first because we just come off that. I had one in my head too. Well, okay. I'm gonna be. I think I have one. I'm gonna do, but it's kind of a dumb one because it's obvious. Well, one I'm going to say, obviously, Travion Henderson.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say, actually, both of those.
Pick 48.
Tyler Warren and Travion Henderson
Tyler
both
Warren,
going to the Broncos was going to be something that I highlighted just as an aside, separate from my actual picks, because we both technically made one of those picks each.
Yeah, dude. Like, that is a bravo for sure. That I could not have a better draft as a Broncos fan. That would be the ultimate. Like, they could trade away all their picks this year and only have those 2 players, and I would probably still be happy.
Yep. Obviously, if you move on from JFM, you probably want to replace that guy with another draft pick.
Correct. But I do think there's probably free agents that could at least fill the void now. Plus, we have a couple young guys that could hopefully step up. I like Watts for the Bears a lot. And it's a cop-out because I gave them to If last week, too. But obviously, that's how much I like it. I think he fits what they need at safety. I think they could move on from Byard after next year. I think Watts would be a fill-in, like he'd be a starter right away. I think he's going to be a starter in their nickel packages if it happened like this. Him and Byard would probably be moved around. They'd probably move Byard closer to the line and have Watts and Brisker kind of playing split man or split zones back there. So yeah, that's probably my second round one, not including the master draft picks by the Broncos.
Mm-hmm.
And then round 1, I'd probably have to say honestly, there's a lot of picks like top 12 that I could say, but I think a lot of those are kind of chalky. Like they're just really good players, so it's pretty obviously
right.
Kenneth Grant to the 49ers I think is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And Mason Graham is awesome, but I keep talking about the defensive lineman, which is why I was thinking about those 2 guys. Is I like Harmon for the Bengals a lot. I think that type of just pass rush from the inside. He has a floor for his pass rush, and they need that. And I think he also could develop into a really good run defender. I don't want to make a comparison, but he reminds me a lot of Geno Atkins in the way that he plays.
So, yeah. That's pretty much exactly my thought process too when I was taking him. I know I didn't verbalize that at all, but
right.
That
doesn't surprise me.
It's easy to make that comp when I'm talking about the same team and everything, but yeah.
Yeah. And I'll even add one more in because I think you made this. Didn't you?
Which one?
Did you pick Will Johnson to the Chargers, right?
No, that was definitely you, Smile, and I picked Malachi Starks to the Packers. Smile.
Oh yeah. Well, anyways, I thought that was a good pick, but yeah.
Yeah. So let's go back to the second round here. I think Donovan Jackson made a lot of sense to me with the Texans. I thought that was a pretty solid one. But I think the one that I want to... Well, yeah, you're welcome. The one that I think want to highlight more, there's two that I want to talk about. Tate Ratledge to the Seahawks. They're not going to do it, but I like that fit a lot.
I think they could.
They should. This is the problem. They should. But will they? I don't know, because they hate guards.
New head coach, new offensive coordinator.
Yeah, that's great.
You never know.
I'm pretty sure I saw a picture of their depth chart the other day where there's legitimately nothing between left tackle and center. Like, they just skipped a position. Like, there wasn't even, like, a left guard spot on the roster. I'm almost positive I'm not making this up.
Doesn't surprise me, man. They're...
And then I was just going to talk about Higgins to the Jags. I think that fit makes a lot of sense. I like the upside play there. The height, the size, the speed, that combination.
Let's give T-Law every opportunity to be as good as we think he can be.
Yep. And then I also just wanted to give flowers to the Titans picks that you made for him in Schwessinger moving back with the Jets, taking Matt Golden when you moved up there too. Obviously, I took Abdul Carter for him, but just overall, again, we're talking about teams that had a really good draft in these first two rounds. We're talking about the Broncos, and I think we're talking about the Titans fairly solidly. So I like that one a lot. And then going back to the first round,
looks like the Titans should retire me. Actually, I don't want to work for Amy.
I think Starks was a really good pick with the Packers. I thought that fit was really solid. But I think the one that I want to highlight is that Gray Zabel to play center for the Cardinals. Again, I know it wasn't your... Yeah, shout out to Daniel Jeremiah. I know it wasn't your original idea, but I think it makes a lot of sense there with that fit.
Yeah.
He can play pretty much anywhere, too, on that offensive line, which is not a bad thing because they need help in a lot of different places. So, pretty solid work, I think, all around. Again, for the first week of doing trades, we had enough that it kept it interesting, kept it fun, kept it spicy, but not so much that we were just flooding the draft with an aggressive amount of trades. I also enjoyed the fact that you and I traded up and down and all that kind of stuff with our own teams because of just the way that the board fell and how things worked out with it, too. So,
I do want to add in, you talked about the Broncos and Titans, and I know I already mentioned one of the Bears picks, but them getting Watts, Judkins, and Will Campbell was kind of awesome.
Yeah, dude, I'd be thrilled if I was a Bears fan, too.
Plus, what you've already added, Caleb's not going to have any excuse if in 2 years he's not a top 10-ish quarterback like he's supposed to be.
Yeah, he's going to be bad.
With his offensive line, his weapons, his coach, scheme, his defense, he should be pretty good, but I guess we'll see.
He should be, but I think he's bad and a bust, and Bonix is definitely better. Shout out to the homeboy, if you know what I mean. So, anyway, that'll be a wrap for this one here. We'll be back next Thursday again with another
7-round.
Yeah, I wish, dude. 2-round with trades. Again, we'll probably have a couple more answers, hopefully, with some things happening. Free agency has slowed down to a trickle at this point. Most of the moves are in place that we have a fairly decent idea of what teams are going to look like, but there's plenty of free agents still out there. The quarterback situation for a lot of teams is going to be up in the air until Aaron Rodgers gets his thumb out of his ass. But until he comes out of the darkness and off the ayahuasca, we'll just be stuck seeing what's going to happen with Russell Wilson, Kirk Cousins, and him as well. So thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Drop a follow over on Twitch as well. We'll be streaming some MLB The Show probably this weekend, hopefully. And just keeping up at it with the YouTube content for the streams. I'm going to hopefully also at some point start uploading videos of MLB The Show once I figure out how to edit them and do that kind of stuff as well. So if you enjoyed being here, I really appreciate y'all for hanging out. I'm having a good time. So, feel free to drop a comment with your team and what you would want them to do.
Yep.
And other than that, let us know what we got wrong, what we got right, what things you're excited for with the draft. And that's pretty much it for me. You got anything else?
Nope. I just obviously, like always, appreciate you having me on here, and I'm excited for the draft, and like you said, to get some more of these answers. And yeah, I think it's going to get really interesting. Obviously, the closer that we get, and I mean, like you said, if you haven't already hit that sub button, you got to hit it, because eventually we're going to throw out one of these three-round mock drafts. I'm going to talk him into doing one of those if I get a little extra time one of these days, and we're going to get a whole new group of names in there.
We might do a Friday night mock in the next couple of weeks here just to spice it up. So, absolutely. Well, thank you for being here.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate it as always. Couldn't do it without you. So, thanks for being here. Thank you all for being here. Well, it wouldn't be anywhere near as fun if I was just picking the players that you were going to pick anyway. So.
True.
Thank you guys for being here. Be safe.